Good evening, everybody. Welcome to BCJ Cast. I am your host, Jay. Joining me today is the usual Corey
Hi.
and Brad.
Allahu Akbar.
Nice entrance there, buddy.
Thanks.
As I say, I'm a bit put off. I'm still waiting for the boom.
Yeah,
I suppose I'll wait a little bit. It might be a while.
It failed to go off. I'm
Well,
currently being shot at by the cops, praying to my personal Lord and Savior that my death is quick and clean. And unfortunately, I don't have a backup plan, so all of these civilians
Should have had a grenade.
live to fight another day.
Oh, man.
They're non-combatants. They're civilians.
Not in my world.
Well, you're not gonna get your 72 virgins this time, there, buddy.
I mean, do you suppose that if he dies and goes there, he'll find a copy of himself as one of them at least?
I don't know.
That'd be a bummer.
I haven't been to that realm yet, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe one day.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the Quran is not very specific on the age and or gender of these virgins, so
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. There is no specifics.
I'm just hoping, luck falls in my favor.
As I say, there's no specifics, at least in the English translation. I wouldn't be surprised if in the original writings there was some language differences that would indicate otherwise. But I'm unsure. I do not actually speak any other language well other than English, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, I don't even speak Arabic. I'm just, I got recruited like yesterday, bro.
Oh, okay. So it's just the word of mouth stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
No.
Hey, real quick, sidebar, joke time. So imagine this, if you will. All right.
Okay.
So you've got Obi-Wan and Luke in the land speeder coming into Mos Eisley for the first time, right? They get stopped by the two stormtroopers.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the stormtrooper commander asks Obi-Wan, about the droids, like he does in the movie.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan does his Jedi mind trick and goes, "I'm straight." That killed at work today. That's the whole joke. And then the stormtrooper commander gets on the radio and goes, "Yeah, he's straight."
Okay.
Okay. Sure. That was a lot worse than I was expecting. Come on, Brad. Where have your good jokes been recently? You used to make me die laughing, and feels like for the last week, they've just been flat.
Falling flat.
Yeah, I'm super depressed.
I mean,
I'm guessing it's because your bomb vest didn't go off.
Well, that and just in general,
I mean,
How do you think it was so easy to convince me to wear a bomb vest? I'm a fairly smart dude.
Yeah. Well, I believe that can be canon, I guess.
You did lose like 5 jobs in like the past week, so
That is true. In our last podcast, I did lose.
And the last recorded one, yes.
I lost 5, or was it 6? I can't remember.
No, it was 5.
Okay, I lost 5 jobs in the span of about an hour and a half.
He was offered a position as a Discord moderator, but once he realized he had to groom children, he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can barely groom myself, let alone
even hardcore anarchist libertarians have morals.
Yeah. Well, I did until I strapped a bomb vest to myself and tried to kill civilians, but
well, what are you gonna do? Not everything works out in life.
Do you guys ever just feel that life isn't worth living?
I did feel like that at one point. It landed me a stint in a mental hospital for 2 weeks. The first time. That was the first time. That was after spending a couple days in the hospital after being resuscitated. That was... Let me say, that's an experience, and you don't want to go through it unless you have no other choice.
I felt that a lot during my sessions at nights when I'm just like there, but just by myself. I'm just like, do I really want to go through all this shit?
Yeah, well.
Well, anyway, today on BCJ Bonfire Talk, we are going to be doing something that we actually had done in another one, but we lost all the data for it, so we decided we're going to do it again. And that is going to be, we're going to take a political compass test. Last time we had a lot of fun with this, had some interesting conversations. Taking the whole test and getting results and everything, that took a little over 2 hours, I think. And
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, and we lost all that data, so this time, hopefully we don't, and we're going to take a different test, but along the same lines. This one's actually a little bit more thorough, I believe. I think about the same amount of questions, but a little bit more in depth with the answers that you can give, which I think is going to make it a bit more, give us a bit more accurate answer. Though I don't think any of our answers were technically wrong. I know Brad was definitely unhappy with the magnitude of his ranking.
Yeah, I just felt like some of the questions, there's no good answer
Not
for.
all the questions are worded well.
Yeah.
No.
So this one's a lot more straightforward. Hopefully, it can give a bit of a more accurate representation of our political leanings, because I know you guys are just dying to hear those.
Yeah.
But
and here's the thing. So this episode will come out towards the end of this year. It'll come out the last Friday of December. And I have an idea, and I'm gonna float it past you guys. A year is a long time, and yet it's also a short time. What do you guys think about doing this at the end of every year?
a new political compass test?
Yeah, well, taking the same one every single time to see how our views change, if at all. Because a year can change somebody a lot.
I think that'd be interesting, especially because next year I might fall off the compass.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they're gonna have to make a new quadrant for you.
I bought some Bitcoin recently. I've been the 3D. We'll redact it. Redacted information. I've been, I've been doing. I've been looking up prices for land in Montana.
So here's the thing, right? So you just mean actually going like off the grid entirely?
Not entirely, but I'm thinking like, Waco style compound with some of my friends way out in the middle of Montana. Like, we can get into that in a later podcast.
I'm sure we can.
I'm what you call I'm what you call a separatist.
When I hear that term, I just automatically think Star Wars.
Yeah, of course you do.
I'm going to confederate my whatever 10, 12 acres into a completely new state. Separate from the federal government, of course, but completely surrounded.
Okay, yes. I'm sure that will work very well.
Well, I mean, the only other option is buy an island, and that's like super expensive.
Buying land isn't cheap either.
Well, yeah, but there's a big difference between land in Montana and a private island.
I mean, you could always just make an artificial island.
Talk about expensive.
I think if you acquire enough junk and know how to lay concrete, I think you can make it work.
It'd need to be a pretty big island to put a whole compound on.
See, at that point, you don't even need a compound. You've got your own island.
Well, yeah, but you need somewhere to live on the island.
Yeah, you make a tiny house and all the junk.
You need like walls and stuff to keep,
Details.
See, he wants the compound because of how big it is. That's the reason why he wants a compound.
See, my only do you guys think about death a lot?
Nah, not really. Not anymore.
See, I've slept like probably a grand total like 12 hours this week. I've just been like laying in bed thinking about how I want to go out, and I want to go out at the hands of the ATF after taking about 50 of them out.
So you really want to be the next David Koresh, huh?
Without all the religious like culty shit, yeah.
Okay.
I want my compound burned down by the ATF, and I want it to be a national controversy that gets them ultimately shut down.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair goal.
Brad, the walking shitpost.
Anyway, as if I'm not serious.
Let's get started with this political spectrum quiz.
Watch, I'm authoritarian left on that.
Go to quiz.com/politics/political spectrum quiz.html. Question number 1. Laws should restrict abortion in all or most cases.
What do you think, Corey?
I'm going to say disagree.
Brad?
Disagree strongly.
Yeah. I'm also going to put disagree here. And the reason why I'm saying regular disagree and not strongly disagree is I'm one of those few people that believes in unrestricted abortion up to a specific point.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if people get an abortion. I'm not here to judge. It's not my job. But there's definitely a point that you can very easily identify during pregnancy where that is very much a child and not a fetus anymore. Does anybody here know what that point is? It's kind of exactly how we use it to determine whether or not somebody in a coma is coming back.
Isn't it like 28 weeks?
No, it's fucking brain activity, dude. You can check for brain activity in a child, that's unborn. Mm-hmm. You can do it. It's not even that difficult. And brain activity is how you determine whether or not somebody is actually alive.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, the point being, like, I think at that point there's no question of like, oh well, it's just a fetus. No, it's very much not a fetus at this point. But it happens so late in pregnancy that it's at that point the child's already viable. It is.
I think like the
and my so stance. Many choices. Yeah, your stances comes from the government shouldn't have any say to begin with.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if government had to be involved, I think it should be like if a baby would be able to survive outside the womb under normal circumstances, then at that point it should be considered a person. So, I mean, the thing with like abortion, like it's not my place. Like, I'll never have to have one. Which, whatever, is what it is. So, I mean, it really isn't my place to speak on it. But, like, the thing that gets me when, like, people talk about it, especially some, like, people on the left, is, like, they compare a baby fetus to, like, a pig fetus. They're like, at a certain point of weeks, it's no different. Well, it's like, well, one's going to grow into a pig, the other into a human. Yeah. Like, you're never going to, a woman's never going to give birth to a pig.
Yeah. My whole thing, my problem with some of the the pro-abortion, pro-choice arguments is there are a lot of very reasonable people, that say, okay, well, maybe we could come to an agreement on that. And then you have people, and I'm not going to name names. You have people that say things that are very much like, well, technically, it's not a real living being until it can sustain itself. And when you present them with the counter argument, like, okay, well, what about a born baby? It's not going to be able to defend itself or sustain itself for like a year, maybe two, before it actually has autonomy. What about are they not are they not people? Are they not living? And you have some people that say no, they're not. You have people that think that at 2 years of age you should be able to kill your child and call it an abortion, which is, so far off, of the of what should be considered acceptable. I have no idea how that is justified.
It's not. Those people, well, I'll refrain
Those people
from
shouldn't have a
saying.
kid to begin with.
Well, yeah, that absolutely. But I was going to say something meaner. But no, I mean it's like arguments like that. It's legitimately infuriating because it's just like those people don't. Those people are literally just advocating for murder.
Yeah, it's kind of straight up at that point.
I'm not a big abortion is murder person, but if you kill a 2-year-old, that's not an abortion.
Yeah.
People get life sentences for shit like that.
yeah. It's at that point I'm just like that shouldn't even be anywhere related to this question because that is straight up murder.
Yeah.
But no, the thing I said is like whenever brain activity begins in a fetus to make it a child, it happens so far on in the pregnancy. You've already had, I want to say, 5 to 6 months to choose whether or not you want to keep it. And at that point, it has over 50% viability to just induce birth right then to give birth to it. There are many families in the U.S. that want a child that cannot get one because there are fees associated with adoption. All you need is an organization, and there are a few out there, but all you need is a national organization that exists on charity, on people donating to handle national a national adoption program, and you'd probably be able to place most children, most if not all.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I do think adoption should be
higher on the list than
I mean,
killing a child after 6 months.
Yeah, but I mean, the only reason I can understand why people would want to get an abortion as opposed to adoption, like just whatever normal, Jane Doe off the street. I can understand like how you wouldn't want to carry it to term because there are like issues that can arise, and I mean, as well as
health problems that can arise,
and there are also like I can only imagine how uncomfortable that is, like.
Yeah.
If you're
but
not,
again, we're talking about, I believe the number is about 0.5% of all abortions happen after 6 months.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are from medical necessity.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I agree. Adoption should be like. I agree. Adoption should
like
be.
I said, we're talking about just a very slim number of cases.
Yeah.
But as somebody that is on the more libertarian side, that slim number of occasions should be protected by our laws, because at that point, that is a person, that is a human being. They have rights as well at that point, and those should be protected. That's my stance, which is going to lead us into the next section of how much does this issue matter on a range between a lot and a little. I don't feel very strongly about abortion. I'm going to say very little to me. Roe v. Wade is already enshrined in law, regardless of whether or not you think that it should be enshrined by the courts or by laws. It currently is enshrined. So unless it would get repealed, which I don't really see happening. This is essentially a non-issue.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, I think I speak for both of us when like uh, that's not an option. That's not an option that we're ever going to have to make. So, you know,
All three of us.
yeah, all three of us.
All three of us.
Well, jury's still out on Corey, but
Well,
Corey,
I mean,
are you planning on getting pregnant anytime soon? Or
I
ever?
can't even
well,
get a
he's
girl
having my
pregnant.
kid.
I
I
can't
know
get
that
a,
much.
I can't get a girl pregnant without a syringe right now. So
Yeah, I was gonna
Well,
say that's also a thing.
Corey's having my kid.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, next question. Unions were indispensable in establishing the middle class.
Huh. No, I don't think that's true. Because we actually know what did actually establish the middle class. Do you know what it was? I'm curious. Brad, do you know? Corey?
small businesses.
No. Brad, do you know? Any
I
idea?
see this one's tough. This one's tough.
Do you know the answer to this question?
No.
Henry Ford. Henry Ford and how he ran the Ford company with creating a minimum wage, creating a 5-day work week that was 8 hours. Henry Ford is is credited with being who established the middle class. It had nothing to do with unions.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, he was paying people. I want to say it was $5 a day, which at the time was about what a regular factory worker would make. But or what double? I'm sorry, double what the regular factory worker would make. But $2.50 of that would go towards a new Ford.
Mm-hmm.
So he was essentially paying them not minimum wage, but a livable wage,
Correct.
and also essentially after a certain amount of time giving them a car.
Yep. And on top of that, with also establishing the 5-day work week, actually created weekends, which allowed businesses to that existed outside of the automotive industry to kind of boom, because now you have a lot of people with extra money and extra time that are able to go more places, able to spend more money. Unions had no bearing on this.
Now, for
So I'm
me,
going to say strongly disagree to this question.
I can't
now
say
the
the
only
bad
thing
U word.
at what?
I can't say the bad U word. It can get me in trouble.
Now, the only thing, like as an anarchist, um, the thing is, I can't stand unions as like lawmakers and lobbyists. Like unions in government are absolutely horrible. An example for listeners, look it up because it's interesting. Look up it wasn't a case, but it was look up the UFC versus the uh, it's not the restaurateurs union. It's like uh, there's the UFC was having a problem getting MMA legalized because of it was like a hospitality union or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, like the union was essentially stopping MMA from being legalized because of a dispute that they had with the UFC and the owners of the UFC, who also owned a chain of casinos. And so, people who were, willing and consenting adults could not fight in a regulated sport because a union didn't like the owners of the biggest company at the time.
Yeah.
And so until, like, for example, 2015, despite the UFC being around since 1993, 2015 is when it finally got legalized in all 50 states. That being said, I'm, if people want to get involved with a union,
Oh yeah, I don't have
really
problems with
care.
unions.
That
I do
being
not have
said,
problems with unions at all. There are definitely times where they're used as a cudgel to beat companies over the head in pretty bad ways, but there are definitely times where they're also necessary to deal with some companies that are being abusive of employees. That being said, many unions in the United States are kind of useless right now because we have such strict employment laws. They do allow for collective bargaining, but in a lot of cases, most of these unions that exist today, they basically just exist as more jobs for people to make money off of, because the collective bargaining aspect is not even used because people aren't even trying to, get around some of this stuff. And in other ways, unions have become detrimental in some industries by preventing innovation.
Sorry, just to
go ahead.
double back to what I was saying. It was the culinary union fought the UFC for like 10 years in court, and using lawmakers to do its dirty work and try and essentially destroy the UFC. All because the culinary union had attempted to unionize the employees of the Station Casinos, which was a company that was owned by the owners of the UFC. And so as a result, the culinary union, who were had plenty of backers, like in Congress and other local governments and stuff like that. They essentially just paid these lawmakers to try and essentially destroy the UFC and MMA in general.
I did not know that. That's very interesting. But yeah, as I say, as far as unions are concerned, I don't have a problem with them. I think that sometimes they're actually the antithesis of what they were supposed to stand for originally. But in general, they're fine.
Well, just like they're bad companies, they're bad unions. So
yeah. Corey, what are your thoughts on unions? Other than you can't say the word.
I can't say the U word. The U word gets me in trouble.
As someone
I've straight up said it in front of my my store manager.
Well, there's a big difference. There's a big difference between you saying it and someone who's trying to get a job as a manager saying it.
Yeah.
Corey's trying to join the ranks.
I was gonna say, like, to be fair, Corey, this isn't going to be pushed till the end of December. You're going to have an answer by then.
No, I don't really care. Like you can basically. I'm just like, yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care.
All right.
I'm saying that as a joke. Like I'm pretty sure my boss does not care if I say it or not. Because
probably not.
Yeah, no.
Considering I have a feeling I know who your boss would be, right?
My boss would be the boss that I'm still talking to now.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
How much does this issue matter to you? It doesn't.
Not that much.
No, it really doesn't. In nearly every instance, the free market allocates resources most efficiently. Yeah, no, that's pretty true.
A completely free market? Strongly agree. The problem
As I
with the
say,
U.S. is we are not free. We do not have a free market. We have what's called, uh, essentially, corporate socialism.
yeah. As I say, yeah, I agree. Free market is definitely better at allocating resources, especially better than the government. If you disagree with that statement, just look at the government we've had for the last couple decades, and then tell me that they're using resources efficiently, and then get back to me, and then try to make an argument. Because
Corey,
I think it would be incredibly difficult.
Corey, I will trade you 1 gallon of unpasteurized milk for 1 barrel of rainwater. Now,
Oh boy,
see,
you're both going to jail.
yeah, that's what we mean. There is no free market.
Yeah.
I I think I speak probably for the three of us. I put agree strongly. And how much does this issue matter? A lot.
I'm gonna stay neutral with how much this matter issues for me. Right in the middle there.
I'm gonna be in between you guys.
So a little bit more than me, but a little bit below Brad.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to launch McNukes at you.
The fucking anarchist is showing at him again.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah,
should. I
well,
think you should be able to trade, at least one of your daughters for a portable nuke.
seems like a fair agreement.
Public radio and television funded by the state provide a valuable service to the citizens.
Um,
Uh,
it's a surface that has value.
it serves
I
as,
don't necessarily agree that it is.
if it's funded by the state, no.
So here's the thing, right? Like it is obviously a service, and it has a value attached to it. I I have this feeling that in most cases that service, the money that you're spending to provide that service is not receiving an amount of value by the citizens, so you're losing money in that exchange.
See, I got into this
I
argument.
don't I don't think it's quite good.
I got into this argument with someone on Facebook about a year ago. They were talking about how, libertarians and small government, like capitalists, are selfish because of things like, services that the government provides. Their example being PBS. And their straw man argument was that libertarians would get rid of PBS, therefore ending Sesame Street and all these other, fun educational shows for kids, all because they don't want the state involved in anything. You're telling me Sesame Street, one of the biggest television shows in the world, wouldn't get picked up by another network?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like if it has value, a name like Sesame Street, which does have value, it would 100% be picked up by another network.
So how much does this matter to you, public radio? Again, my answer for this is I disagree with this. I don't think it provides the right value. I don't really care about this issue all that much either.
Yeah.
We're talking about such a minuscule amount of money at that point, though. Like I said, I don't think you're giving as much value as what you're spending, but it's such a tiny amount comparatively. It's not something I'm really worried about.
Have either of you ever seen a public access show?
I'm sure I did when I was very young.
Same.
Because that would be the only time I would have, because I don't remember having seen one.
That should tell you about how much value there are in those. That being said, a station like PBS would definitely get bought for a lot of money.
Probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure I watched stuff on PBS whenever I was a kid. I can be fairly certain of that. I just don't remember what.
Let's see. I think Zaboomafoo was a PBS show.
I think I watched some of that. I don't
Sesame
remember
Street.
anything about it.
It's
I
a
fucking
PBS
hated
show.
Sesame Street. I hate Sesame Street.
Arthur is
Not a fan of Arthur.
Let's see. Cyberchase.
I did kind of like that as a kid. I mean, I liked math.
Yeah, Cyberchase. There was another one I think it was called Zoom. That was a PBS show. I just remember. I remember we used to watch a lot of them just because our daycare, like the daycare that I used to go to when I was like in kindergarten and first grade. Every time we would come home or get back from school, we'd get dropped off at the daycare until our parents could come pick us up at like 5. They had a little TV in the back corner that only got one channel, and that was PBS.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't think it. I'm gonna say disagree to this question, but it matters very little to me.
Yeah.
Corey, what's your response here?
I mean, I don't
like. I don't think it should stop. I just don't think it's as high. I don't think it's as valuable as people claim it is.
Well, the other thing too with PBS, a lot. I think a majority of their money. I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but I'd be very surprised from private donors. That's literally voluntarism.
Yeah, volunteerism.
I mean, I don't watch TV or listen to radio anymore, so I just don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. I haven't had television since 2014. And I don't use it either. I don't really listen to radio either. The only time I do is whenever I turn my car on and it's for some reason switched over to 1200 AM radio because that's the default. And that's it. That's all the radio I hear, and it usually goes for about 2 seconds before I switch it to aux and then throw something on YouTube whenever I drive. Usually a podcast of some kind.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people do.
Yeah, as I say, radio is just such a waste of money these days.
Speaking of money,
used to be so great.
Speaking of money,
great back in the day.
This is a perfect time to get into our sponsor. Our sponsor today, Ladies Underwear. Guys, if you're looking to wear something comfortable, buy Ladies Underwear.
I mean, it's not a controversial statement. They are comfortable.
Very comfortable.
Especially the silk ones, nice and smooth. Just really cradles and caresses your balls. It's actually quite an enjoyable experience.
You heard another satisfied customer. Guys buy Ladies Underwear. Anyway.
After our sponsor there. Question number 5. Some people should not be allowed to reproduce.
Well, I definitely agree. That being said, when it comes to laws and government determining who should be allowed to reproduce, I'm going to disagree strongly.
I think there are people that shouldn't. But as to not being allowed to, because that is what the question is here, it should not be allowed.
Yeah.
Which would, signify laws. I'm going to say I pretty strongly disagree with this one.
Yeah.
In fact, if that's on the table, I'm going to say this issue matters a lot. If we're talking about this, if that's an argument that's being made,
I mean, left up to me, I could name a few people I know who definitely should not be allowed.
If you're going to name your child Karen, you should not be allowed to reproduce.
If you're
you don't need more
general,
Karens.
if you are a Karen, you should not reproduce.
Making mini Karens.
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you guys with this. Like personally, I wouldn't want certain people to reproduce, but I don't want the government to get involved with that
at all.
I was to say, this is, regardless of this question, the idea of eugenics is definitely an interesting topic. Eugenics is not inherently the terrible idea of some people should not be allowed to reproduce. Sometimes eugenics is who should reproduce together to make the strongest genetic children. And that's actually an interesting field of topic. The problem is it's been used so much to talk about who can't reproduce or who you should remove from the production, from the reproduction cycle. That I can't get down with. But to the idea that like people might marry each other to produce strong offspring, I actually think that's a good idea.
I mean, literally.
I also think self-imposed, a self-imposed, ban on reproduction, like what my wife and I have chose to do, is also perfectly fine and reasonable and understandable. I don't want to pass on my mental illness to my children. I don't want to pass her mental illness onto our children. I don't want to reproduce. Simple as that.
And
I don't like kids.
That's completely fair, but I mean, like the problem, like the problem with eugenics is every time it's ever been used in history,
yeah,
it's been to not allow a certain group of people,
and that's
from
a problem.
reproducing, trying to erase an ethnic group or religion or
kinds of disabilities,
ideology,
or ideologies.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely egregious. That should never be. That should never be considered acceptable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I strongly disagree with this, and I actually care about that a lot.
Yeah. Our next question: access to healthcare is a right.
Corey, what do you think?
As somebody who personally kind of got fucked over by Obamacare, I don't think social health care is the answer.
But that's not the question.
That's not the question.
Yeah.
Is it a right? Is access to healthcare a right?
If you're allowed to afford it, yeah.
Ding,
Brad?
ding, 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 ding. Correct. The reason healthcare is not a right is because that's saying you have the right to someone else's labor. Healthcare is labor. It's an incredibly labor intensive. Vocation chosen by and people choose to pursue it very rarely. Hence why doctors get paid so much.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, so my thoughts on this are, you have the right to seek out healthcare. However, you don't have the right to be cared for regardless of whether or not you can pay. And that's what the question is asking here.
Yeah.
Is, do you have the right to be treated regardless or not you can pay for the services? The answer is no. I mean,
yeah. The thing with doctors is saying healthcare is a right and demanding healthcare be free. You are demanding the labor that someone put into taking care of your health. You are demanding to pay zero for their labor. And the fact of the matter is their labor is their labor. Excuse me, like choking. Their labor is saying that you have the right to their labor is essentially slavery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why it's not a right.
It's also important to understand that the reason why healthcare costs are so high right now is because administrative costs are so astronomically massive because of government interventions, specifically Obamacare. I believe I saw one study that said that Obamacare has increased healthcare costs by over 400% at this point.
Well,
because of the administrative costs that have resulted from it.
Well, ever since the government first got involved in the healthcare, which I think was the 60s or 70s, the cost has skyrocketed astronomically to the point where, wages haven't caught up, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even just like 15 years ago, nowhere near the cost of living has not gone up 400+% in 15 years.
Yeah.
It's not. Inflation has not gone up nearly that much. Heck, education costs are extraordinary, but that increase again is because of administrative costs, a lot because of government intervention. Even that's caused by administrative costs, and even that's not increased 400% in 15 years. And the big spike came because of Obamacare. And so, it really, like, yes, healthcare costs started going up in the 60s, as did the price of most other things as people became more prosperous. But the big spike, what really made it go from an inconvenience to downright a life or death decision for people in the, in the lower, the lowest, tiers of poverty, that came with Obamacare.
And the other thing too, when you look at the healthcare in the United States as a whole, healthcare being a business is one of the reasons why the United States is pretty much
Leading
the
in
only,
medical innovation.
Pretty much the only first world country that's doing any medical innovation.
So I think the total cost of everything before insurance kicked in for my, all my cancer treatment and stuff like that, like the port surgery, the tumor surgery and all that, I think it was like 43 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I reached my out of pocket very quickly.
Yeah.
I remember
it's an insane amount of money.
The hospital is the only place that I had to pay $8 for one aspirin.
Yeah, really. Oh, that reminds me of one particular hospital stay that I had. Right, so I got incredibly sick one time, and I ended up it was a kind of stomach flu, and I ended up getting incredibly dehydrated because I couldn't even drink water. I could like mix it around and like I could like swish it around in my mouth, but if I swallowed it, it'd come back up in like 10 minutes. I became dehydrated. I started really having I couldn't think. I couldn't focus. I started having like a hard time like walking and stuff like that. And I ended up having to go to the emergency room. And when I got there, I told them, this is what's wrong with me. This is what I have. All I need is IV fluids. That is it. I just need to get through tonight. That is all I need. And so do you know what they did?
A battery
they admitted
of tests.
Ran a battery of tests, forced me to try to give a urine sample, which was damn near impossible because I was almost I was like going into the later stages of dehydration. And then the geniuses, after 2.5 hours, said, yeah, you have the stomach flu and you're going to need IV fluids.
Correct.
They charged me. Okay, I was in the hospital for a total of about 4 hours. For that visit, they charged me, I believe it was $9 grand.
Yeah, no,
and I had insurance, and insurance paid all but 400 of it. And I contacted my insurance, and I disputed it, and I told them, I was like, this is what happened, this is what I said, this is the problem with it. And I was just like, I'm going to dispute these charges. And they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You're free to dispute with the hospital. And I said, okay. And so, do you know what I did? I never paid the medical bill. And I told them to go eat my ass.
Well,
I called them. I called up the billing department and I said, I'm not paying this. what you guys did was egregious. Eat my ass.
Well, I had to go after my boxing match. Went to the hospital for dehydration, and literally a bed for an hour. It wasn't even like the emergency room. A bed for an hour and one bag of IV fluid ran me about $1,800.
Yeah, it's the cost of healthcare is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
So I disagree that access to healthcare is all right.
Yeah.
How much does this issue matter?
A lot.
I was gonna say I'm just one tick below a lot.
That's fair.
I got
So a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being a little, 5 being a lot. I'm at a 4.
I'm a 5.
I got personally fucked. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Corey's the one that should be speaking on this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we did hear. You said it was 48,000.
Yeah, so it was close to 50 G's. Granted, still had some good insurance. So like after everything, I only had to pay $5K, and I was able to get a loan for it that I'm still currently paying. But one of the things that I completely hate the most is doing a CT scan for not like I'm in the CT scan area for maybe like 10 minutes, right? Maximum 10 minutes. And I have to pay $100 for it. Fuck that. Like legitimately fuck that. I'm just like, why? Why do I have to pay this much? Like I know that I have to pay, right? I know that I have to pay, but I don't want to pay $800 for a thing that I'm going to be doing for 30 minutes when like if I look before Obamacare, I could have probably gotten it for 300.
Yeah, it's insane. The costs have just skyrocketed astronomically because of one bad law.
And the other thing that I feel very strongly about is I don't think people should be able to get patents on medicine.
You don't?
No. Because what it essentially does is, like, for example, insulin. There are drug.
I'm actually really interested in hearing your thoughts on this.
Okay.
We might get in a fight.
Okay, that's fine. People are able to like patent things like insulin,
Correct.
and as a result, it's very, 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 very hard for competition to lower the costs of things like insulin. And I mean, there are people who literally, like, there are stories that you can find of people who try to like essentially ration their insulin, and as a result go into like comas or just straight up die because they can't afford the price of insulin. Because I if I remember correctly, I think like a month's worth of insulin is about $1,200. That's like
It's more than that. It's actually, last I heard, it was 1,800.
Yeah,
because the price raised.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to afford it.
And again, that is also before insurance.
Yes. However, also because people can't get there's little to no competition in health insurance coverage. A lot of people can't afford insurance because these companies can just charge whatever they want. Anyway,
yeah, and the reason why they could charge whatever they want is because
there's no competition.
No, it's not because of that. There's actually a lot of competition in health insurance and in health insurances. But the reason why it's so high is because they can't deny people, which means everybody gets lumped into the same risk categories. And as a result, except for very minuscule amounts of money, you end up having to pay a shitload of money because you have to cover people that don't that are not at the same risk factor as you. You can have a very low risk factor, and that doesn't matter anymore. Used to be, if you were a very, very healthy individual, young, no health problems, you could get insurance for dirt cheap. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't matter because insurance companies are mandated to have to cover everyone, and as a result, the insurance premiums are higher across the board by astronomical amounts.
Okay. Well, but I mean, you should be able to, like, a company should be able to, like, deny someone who has high risk is high risk
They
for.
can't. It's because of Obamacare.
No, I know. I'm saying that's a problem.
Yeah.
They're because I'm sure the insurance companies would be willing to take on higher risk people for higher rates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think insurance companies are willing to turn. If an insurance company could charge you $2,000 a month because you are whatever in a high risk category, I think that's perfectly fine. Because with other competition, another company might be able to go, okay, this company's going to charge you $2,000 a month for health insurance. We will charge you $1,000, and then you can pick your coverage based on that. And I think a lot more insurance companies would be willing to lower their premiums for high risk individuals if they were able to, if a majority of people weren't in a high risk group.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other problem with America is so many of us are obese, which puts us in the high risk.
Well, yeah, but I mean, don't tell a certain group of people, but that's something that can be changed.
Oh yeah, it can be.
And the other thing too,
for most people, yeah, like 99% of people.
There are laws on the books that don't allow insurance companies to.
Yeah, there are certain laws that
compete.
prevent across state border competition.
Yeah.
And not to mention that even with competition among some insurance companies, the insurance the insurance coverage in network is basically mostly the same across the board. At that point, you're really just kind of you're dealing with such minimal differences. It's nice because basically most medication is covered by insurance companies, but a lot of stuff like hospital visits, whether or not an ambulance is covered, how much you pay out of pocket for doctor's visits or specialist visits, that's all the variable stuff that gets, that can be wildly different.
Have you heard the stories of people taking Ubers to hospitals instead of ambulances?
Oh yeah.
How long do you think until Uber can open an ambulance service? Like how long until in a perfect world? In a perfect world.
I don't think they do.
Well, I know, but in a perfect
because the entire reason that the ambulance trip is so expensive is because of the personnel and the items that you have to maintain life. Whereas the stories of people using Ubers to go to hospitals in emergency situation, those are people that they aren't critical. They're people that have broken bones or people that got cut very badly. They aren't people whose lives are in danger. So taking an Uber is perfectly fine and acceptable. That's it's actually the better way to do things. Because alternatively, because they don't have a vehicle, they would have to take an ambulance because they don't know people or they don't have a car. People that are dying, that have been shot 3 times and are lying in in their apartment, they're not calling an Uber, they're calling an ambulance.
I'm just saying, Uber.
I don't think it happens. But I do think that Uber should actually maybe even put out some ads or something hey, broken a bone, don't call an ambulance, call Uber.
I'm sure they have, honestly.
If they haven't, they should.
Yeah, but no, I think it'd be funny. See,
as I say,
Uber ambulance.
Yeah, because one of the other problems is you also have people that just break their leg and then call an ambulance. It's just like, no, call a family member. If you don't have a family member, call a taxi. If you have money, and if you don't have money, call an Uber
Well, there a lot of more
or
rural
Lyft or whatever.
areas. Well, a lot of more rural areas. Also, there are ambulance companies that you can like subscribe to, basically.
Yeah.
That like if you pay a fixed amount, I don't know, per year, per month, or whatever, you can call that service instead.
Mm-hmm.
Because those little rural areas don't have like the infrastructure to support like an honest to god like ambulance fleet. So these
Yeah.
private companies, these private companies will basically give you that service for a fee.
I was gonna say, I actually live not that far from from an independent like ambulance depot. It's not associated with any hospital, but it's a medevac, um, you know, service.
Are you talking about the one in Portersville?
No, there's literally one down the road, dude.
Oh,
Like
well,
Yeah.
it's literally like 5 or 6 blocks away. You know where 7-Eleven is?
yeah,
If you head past it instead of going up the hill to the light,
yeah.
you make a right there. It's literally like a block and a half away.
Okay, well, I think there's another one. The reason I brought it up is because every time I come from the gym over like for D&D or whatever, I pass another independent one
Mm-hmm.
in Portersville.
Yep. There's one there too. Now on to the next question.
Okay.
The rich
Good.
should pay a higher tax rate than the middle class.
Corey?
Um. I don't know on this one, honestly. There's some.
I've got one statement for this one whenever Corey's done.
I think this one I'm going to stay neutral on.
I've got one statement.
Okay.
Flat tax or no tax?
I'm firmly no tax camp.
Yeah, I'm gonna put. I slightly disagree on this one because again, flat tax or no tax.
Yeah.
I put disagree strongly. See, the reason is taxation is theft.
Well, that's not an inaccurate statement, but I feel like if you're going to have taxation, it needs to be equal across the board.
But my social contract. Show me a signature, baby.
Yeah, show me a signature.
If you can find the contract with my signature on it, show me where I signed.
Yep.
And also, I was literally a newborn, so that signature is invalid. I was not of legal.
You were not of the
contract.
age of consent.
Yeah, I was not of the age of consent. Yeah.
How much does this issue matter? I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, same.
I put a 3.
Okay, that's fair. Question number 8. School science classes should teach intelligent design. Does everybody here know what intelligent design is?
Yeah.
Corey?
Graphic arts and shit like that?
Close. Corey, you're close. No.
Intelligent design is essentially creationism.
Yeah.
The idea that the universe was created by a divine being that created it with an intelligent design. Strongly disagree. We're talking science class. This is not theology class.
Yeah.
So strongly disagree. I'm not too. I don't really care about this issue that much. I'm gonna give it a 2.
I gave it a 1.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm also I'm neutral. I mean, I think it should be left up to the school or the parent.
I think it's
in a perfect world.
So here's the thing. I don't have a problem with schools teaching intelligent design. I have a problem with a science class teaching intelligent design being labeled as a science class.
Well,
those two things are inherently butting heads with each other. Like if you want to send your child to a, like say a Catholic school where, where they teach in like intelligent design as, the truth, it is the truth. They also need to teach science in science class. Intelligent design, that's going to go over into theology.
Well, and this ties into the next one, as a tradcath, as a tradcath, I'm all for it.
Right. Okay. Well.
Nah,
So here's
said
the other thing. Here's the other thing, right? Okay. Christianity is one of the only religions that actually believes their creation story, which is hilarious considering that most Jews believe that Genesis is simply an allegory and is not actual truth.
Am I Jewish? No, I mean I agree. Like it's not a, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. That's the only reason I put neutral, and it also why I gave it a 1. I mean, honestly, if a school wants to teach that as its science class, I think it should be able to. But you should also be able to opt out of that school, public or private, doesn't matter. You should be able to opt out of it. Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's saying school here and not private, which sometimes is called academies. I don't know. I'm associating this more with public schools.
That's fair.
Because
I think most
so
people
here's the
would.
thing. There's a lot of arguments that say that public schools should be teaching intelligent design because it's the other viewpoint, and they shouldn't be discriminating. But here's the thing, right? Again, intelligent design. If you want to believe it, you're more than welcome to believe that that's how the universe got started. But that's going to fall into the realm of theology, and therefore it does not belong in a science class. I don't have a problem with it being taught. I'm not here to tell people, what they can and can't believe and what they can and can't teach. What I have a problem with is that being labeled as something that should be in a science class.
That's fair. I mean, my main
That's
issue.
That's where my issue is.
That's fair. I have a problem with the public school teaching it only because, like, for example, someone who is raised in, has a like atheist family or something like that, or an atheist belief system, wouldn't be able to opt out of a intelligent design science class.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I went to a public school, and guess what? We learned about intelligent design in one of my classes. Do you want to know what that class was?
Theology.
Mythology. Taught by my favorite teacher. Now you have to understand that all religious beliefs fall under the umbrella of mythology, strictly speaking.
Yeah.
And so that's why, at the beginning of the year we had to take a paper home that said these are the materials that we're going to be studying, and it listed things like the Torah, the New Testament, the Quran, and it said we understand that there are some that might be upset with the idea that these world religions are being lumped in with the mythology, but here's like this 4-paragraph essay on defining the terms and why they fall under mythology. And being the son of a pastor, taking home this paper that my parents had to sign that said that they were okay with me discussing the Old and New Testament as mythology, that was an interesting conversation.
I can imagine.
No, I say it's an interesting conversation, mostly because I thought my dad would be more opposed to it than he was. But he wasn't. He was just like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. He's like, that is how it would be strictly defined.
Yeah.
He's very pragmatic whenever it comes to his views on religion. He's a pastor, but he's very pragmatic about it and how it's viewed in the wider world. So
that's fair.
That's something I appreciate about him.
I think more pastors should be like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, in fact, that class is where I ended up reading what is to date my favorite book.
Foundations.
No.
Cat's Cradle.
Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. At this point in my life, I was very much, I would almost call myself a militant atheist. I hated religion. I thought it should die in a hole and go away permanently. And then I read Cat's Cradle.
I was always more of a
I became much more accepting. I was just like, I understand now why people cling to religion. And after that, I was just like, no, you can, if that's the religion you want to follow, I'm okay with that. Like, it's, as long as you're not using it to try to affect my life, as long as you're not trying to use it to take away, my natural rights as a citizen, then you're allowed. I'm okay with you believing whatever you believe with, no matter how ridiculous I think it is.
Yeah. That's how an agnostic like Jordan and a trad cath like I, and
To
me.
be fair, I would technically call myself a Baconinist now.
Okay. But no,
Baconanism is from Cat's Cradle, so.
Well, the Cat's Cradle, I always enjoyed that, but I'm more of a Slaughterhouse 5 man.
Hey, Slaughterhouse 5 is also a great one.
But no.
I
Anyway.
mean, Kurt Vonnegut just had some very phenomenal works.
Well, what's the one? It was like a short story. The one that was basically ripping on communism.
There's a lot of short stories like that. Is it by Kurt Vonnegut?
Yeah.
Look it up, man. I don't know.
I looked it up like a couple weeks ago and forgot.
Call me Jonah, for that would be who I am. Well, I would be.
Harrison Bergeron.
Anyway, let's. Do you have any final thoughts on this one, Corey?
Nope.
Okay, then let's move on.
Corey's not very political.
Marriage must be heralded for the important role it plays in society. Maybe back in the day.
Yeah, I disagree.
I disagree with this. Now that does not comment on the value, the value of the family unit. But just marriage in general, I think marriage is kind of an outdated construct. Now, full disclosure, I am married. I have a wife. It is marriage through the state. To be honest, I don't actually know if we would have gotten married if it had not been for my parents being such a stickler about it. I'm perfectly cool with civil unions.
Well, I mean, I think here's my I really don't think marriage plays an important role in society anymore. But that does not mean that it doesn't play an important role. It doesn't play an important role to people. I can understand why, especially religious people, I can understand why a religious person would want to get married. However, that being said, I don't think the state should be involved in marriage because it doesn't really it's not important.
Yeah. So what are you going to answer this, Brad?
I disagree. It doesn't matter that much, though.
Yeah, I also disagree, and it on the matter scale, I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah, same.
Although,
same to you.
I might be a little biased though, just because I have a weird view on marriage.
I mean,
well,
I also don't think the state should have anything to do with marriage. But
well, it's not even like state; it's like personal issues with it.
Like what? I'm interested in hearing about this.
I'll tell you off.
We both know my views on a very recent marriage that I had to be a part of.
yeah, but we're not going to talk about that because we don't want people to get sent to jail.
Yeah.
Sometimes war is necessary, even if it means you strike first.
I agree strongly. I have already declared war against the ATF, and I will be striking soon.
Corey, what's your actual thoughts on this?
I'm neutral, honestly.
Brad, what's your actual? Is that your actual?
No, I mean I'm neutral. I can understand why it would be necessary if there was a massive threat. I don't agree with the strike first. I'd prefer if America would go back to the
Isolationist.
isolationist
Bro,
stance it had.
I miss
At least when it comes to warfare.
I miss Teddy, man. I miss Teddy. Teddy was a great president.
Teddy was a bit of an interventionalist, though.
Yeah, but he but
And
like
that's the thing. I actually I used to be more of an isolationist. I think as I've gotten a little bit older and have come to see a bit more of the world and see the situation our world is in, I'm also a bit more of an interventionalist. I think I'm on the lighter side of that. But I definitely am a little bit more. Maybe we should get involved, especially if things are happening that are like egregious violations of human rights. Um, then yes, probably. I'm
In
going to
that
say
case,
agree, but it matters very little.
in that case, I am all for Raytheon selling selling whatever weapons the whatever resistance needs.
So yeah, my answer to that question is that I agree, but I'm going to say it matters very little to me. You're just going to stay neutral?
Yeah, no,
yeah.
That's a completely fair stance. I think.
neutral. It a little. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never ever gonna be involved in.
Just remember, Brad, war and defense are one of the few legitimate primary functions of a state.
That's what militias are for. Haven't you ever seen Red Dawn?
I mean, yes, I have. I've watched. I've not watched it, but I know quite a bit about the power of fantasy.
Yeah. In a perfect world, we'd just be Red Dawn. Ever get invaded? Just that's why bunkers are so important.
Bunkers and
That's
compounds.
Yeah,
that's
because
why I don't like gun laws is because the reason why
just living on top of or living in like an impassable mountain range in a big compound where like China wouldn't even bother going just because who cares? One guy living by himself.
What can you
Meanwhile,
do?
it's me and like 100 people, and I am their leader.
Of course you are.
but
Next question.
I'm also their savior because
Next question.
the
Patriotism is
Okay.
an overrated quality.
agree.
It can be taken a bit too far, so yeah, I agree.
I'm probably going to be the only person to say that I disagree with this one.
I mean,
Probably the only one.
yeah, I agree with that statement.
I think that it's not an overrated quality. I think the main problem is people don't understand what patriotism actually means, and as a result, people think it's overrated.
I mean, I know when a lot of people say patriotism today, what they actually mean is nationalism, but don't want to call
Yeah,
someone a nationalist.
yeah,
Yeah.
That being said, I do think patriotism is an overrated quality because ultimately, the people that you're proud of, like the culture that you enjoy, ultimately doesn't give a shit about the person who is patriotic.
yeah. I'm gonna say that this issue is very little importance to me.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, like the ultimate patriots, at least in today's day and age, are the men and women getting shipped overseas to make Raytheon and Halliburton and all those companies tons and tons and tons of money, as well as lining the pockets of most of our politicians.
Yep.
Dying for oil. Go get
I
them,
mean,
Patriots.
not really, not anymore.
Not anymore, but now it's just heroin.
Not
and,
really, not
and
anymore.
contracts.
That's true.
Well, there's a reason
I
that
was
we're
gonna
still in
say,
Afghanistan, and that's to protect the poppy fields. Because Afghanistan is where I think 95% of the world's heroin comes from.
I was gonna say it's
And if the U.S. wants to corner a drug market, well, it might as well be that one. There's a reason it's only $10 a hit now. That's because of Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. I was gonna say,
That being said, it really doesn't
I,
matter.
I'm pretty happy.
This
actually.
question really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it really
to me
doesn't.
anyway.
I'm actually pretty happy that we've been pulling out of the Middle East, which I mean,
As an isolationist, woohoo!
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's one of the few things that most people should be able to agree with Trump on, but they still hate it because Orange Man bad.
Yeah, somehow the Democrats became the war hawks. Boo-hoo, he
Which,
isn't.
like, I
Trump's
could see,
evil. He hasn't even started a new war. What the hell?
yeah, first president since who? Fucking peanut farmer, I believe.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, first president since Jimmy Carter did not start a new war. Or sorry, can't say war, conflict.
Yeah, because I don't think any of I don't.
The only war we've been in is the war on terrorism.
Well, that
Which
wasn't even an
wasn't even a
official war.
real war.
I don't think
It
we've
was
been in an
definitely,
official
to be
war
fair
since the
though,
Korean War.
I was gonna say, to be fair though, it was sanctioned by Congress. Whether or not they actually voted on it as a war, it was sanctioned by Congress entirely.
It still
So,
doesn't matter. It's illegal.
yeah,
Under U.S. law, the war
yeah,
on terrorism, the war in Vietnam,
yeah.
I think both Gulf wars. I think the conflict in Grenada was
Mm-hmm.
illegal. Am I missing any of them?
Oh, there's a couple there,
Yeah,
but it's not that important.
we haven't been in a legal war since the Korean War.
Yep. Radio stations should be required to present balanced news coverage.
I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for the QAnon channel on Spotify.
I mean, I would like some unbiased news coverage. Will I get it? No, but I want a bit. Granted, I don't listen to radio anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with this one, but I don't think it really matters because nobody really listens to radio anyway these days.
Well, it doesn't.
Nobody under the age of like 40.
Well, the problem with balanced news coverage is, and I think you see it on Twitter all the time, is like people just naturally gravitate towards their echo chambers.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, wouldn't want balanced news at this point. They just want the news that tells them they're right.
Honestly, what I would want more than anything else is just a news program that just presents the facts and stops giving their fucking opinions.
I want more than anything.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I will say
that's it. That's all you need, because that's what media is supposed to be. It's supposed to be holding people accountable by providing the facts and allowing you to draw your interpretations and conclusions from those facts. Nowadays, basically all news and all media is this happened and this is why it's good or this is why it's bad, and
yeah,
selectively telling people what happened and completely ignoring certain things. It's pretty fucking egregious.
Now I will say this, the pretty much the only like radio station that still does that is NPR. But in order to get your like this happened news, you have to listen to a lot of low T individuals drone in a voice that can only be described as NPR voice.
NPR voice.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like it's funny because there is a little bit of bias there. That will be like, and today there was a terror attack in Nigeria. Insurgents climbed the walls of a Christian private school and murdered 129 individuals. Anyway, Trump still won't
Yeah, yeah,
do
that's
X or Y or Z.
yeah.
They'll get more fired up about Trump than
Than Americans murdering children.
yeah. Anyway, but I will say NPR is fairly good about just delivering facts.
As I say, one of my favorite news places that I found in a while was a place called No Here, and I actually really like this idea. I wish I followed them a bit more. I just don't consume news as much anymore right now, at least. And what they would do is they would take, you'd have an event that happened, and they would give you three articles. Um, one that's from a source that's considered to be left leaning, one from a source that was considered to be right leaning, and one from a source that was considered to be relatively in the middle or unbiased. And they'd put them side by side so that you could read them, see what they agree on, where they disagree, and more importantly, I think, see what information each one leaves out.
Yeah.
And so that was a really, really cool news program. It's not a program; it was a website.
Well,
But
the one that I enjoy most is a Facebook page, literally called Unbiased America, and it's just news story. I think it's like one dude, but like it's news stories, and he just literally just tells you what happens.
yeah, I just pulled it up. No here news, straight facts for critical thinkers.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I'm with you. I disagree, but it really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just see if I've got an example.
Well, while you try and look for it, the next question: government should do something about the increasing violence in video games. This one's a pretty easy one.
Strongly disagree.
Disagree strongly. How
I
much does it matter? A lot.
A lot.
Yep,
Yeah.
Corey, do you agree?
I agree.
uh,
If our
Yeah.
leader meets with our enemies, it makes us appear weak.
I'm gonna say I strongly disagree with this.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I don't think that's a healthy attitude to have.
yeah.
I also think like you think like the mob bosses having a sit down makes your leader look weak. Walking into his territory strutting his shit, nah, B, he fucking
Yeah.
fat as fuck.
Trump walking over the DMZ and just slapping a fat cock on the table. Here's what I want.
So excuse me. I was actually very happy whenever Trump actually agreed to meet with mini dictator Kim Jong Un, because our country has had, uh, basically no real contact with North Korea, no real diplomacy,
Yeah.
and the first step to actually opening up a diplomatic solution to problems is acknowledging somebody,
Yeah.
which the U.S. has just not done with North Korea basically at all. And I remember finally seeing that. It's just like, finally, we can finally take a step towards normalizing relations with North Korea. I still think it's a terrible state. It's a rogue nation, and we should probably, the whole world should probably gang up and take them down. My opinion, probably disagree. You guys probably might disagree with that, but at least acknowledging them and meeting with them, even if it doesn't actually result in any change, is at least a first step to opening the door, which should be admired. And oh my god, it was hilarious to watch all of these people that 5-10 years ago talked about how we need to get out of the Middle East and we need to stop intervening in other countries and we need to be the diplomatic country, sit there and shit on Donald Trump for recognizing North Korea as a country.
Well, I think the biggest thing, like if we could avoid war, I would prefer to do that. However, I think the U.S. should do whatever it needs to do to make life difficult for the leaders of North Korea, and if they could help as many people get out of there as want to leave.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that sentiment.
Yeah. Next question. We must use our military from time to time to protect our supply of oil to avoid having a natural crisis. Disagree strongly.
I also disagree strongly, especially right now, considering that the United States is the largest exporter of oil in the world.
Yeah. We are for the first time in a while, because of oil wells that have recently been made, and excuse me, reserves that they found in Alaska. We are one of the biggest. We are the largest exporter, but we are also one of the biggest.
So,
We have
uh,
some of the biggest reserves
I'm
in
gonna
the
stop
world as
you right
well.
there. I'm gonna stop you right there to tell you something.
Okay.
A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people tote that, oh, finding oil reserves in Alaska. No, we did not find them anytime recently. We've known that they've been there for over 50 years. Um,
We can
here's the
actually
thing.
use them.
Here's the thing. We knew about them for a long time, and it was kept very hush hush because, and let me see if I remember this correctly. The amount of oil that sits under Alaska is roughly 3 to 4 times that of the oil that has sat under the Middle East. Now tell me what happens when the Middle East runs dry.
They invade us for our oil.
We become the number one exporters of oil in the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's been going on with the Middle East continuing to deteriorate, and they still produce a lot of oil, just not as much. Um, and with Donald Trump, again bringing up Orange Man bad, with Donald Trump easing the very strict, we are not taking any of our oil and shipping it anywhere else. We're not using our reserves. With him easing that a little bit, yet we don't have an oil problem now.
Yeah. Well, no, I do think it's a good thing, like Trump easing those restrictions.
Yeah.
And I'm not against us being the largest exporter of oil. The only thing I want to avoid is an invasion of Alaska for our oil.
Yeah.
For oil.
I actually knew a guy that was part of an expedition to Alaska to actually scout out the oil fields many decades ago.
Yeah.
He told me about this back in 2009, and he laid all this out for me, and I was just like, I'll remember that, because I thought the guy was a bit of a loony at the time. No, turns out he was actually 100% correct. Yeah, so I was wrong. He was right. My apologies to him. He actually was all with it.
No, I mean I'm all for it. But we won't have to use our military, I think, to protect our supply of oil. That being said, if Alaska, for whatever reason, were to get invaded, I think we should defend it. But
No, I this question is more referring to protecting our supply of oil, like in the Middle East. This
yeah,
has been
that's
one
that.
of the very
I
strong allegations about the war on terrors. It was never about terrorism. It was just about protecting our oil sources,
Yeah,
which was a
lie.
which isn't true. It wasn't true. It was a plus, but that was definitely not its intent.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I put disagree strongly, precisely because it does mean in the Middle East.
Hmm. I also disagree strongly, but I also really don't care about this all that much.
Yeah.
Corey, what are your thoughts?
Same.
Stunning commentary.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think my chair is making a lot more noise in this podcast than I am.
It's possible, but I haven't really heard your chair all that much, so I
Yeah.
can't say.
I haven't been paying attention to whether or not your chair is making noise.
Agreed. Why
um,
don't you lead us on our next one, Corey?
Strong gun ownership rights protect the people against tyranny. Strongly agree.
And why do you strongly agree?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons why we were able to revolt against the British and their tyranny is because we had guns.
military grade.
Military grade, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's basically, it comes to this where, like, gun control is basically sacrificing liberty for safety, right? Technically, and it's really gray. But if you do that, you get none, and you get tyrannical people to run the country. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having that unlisted militia out there in our country makes people kind of think twice of being, they try to mask their authoritarianism as humanitarian, or
Humanitarianism.
yeah, humanitarianism.
Humanitarianism.
So they try to conceal that authoritarian mask with humanitarianism.
So you can be humanitarian and authoritarian. But that is going to put you directly at odds with libertarianism.
Yeah.
Because I can definitely sit here and make authoritarian choices for people that will be humanitarian in effect. But you're not going to have any choices in your life. You're not going to be able to choose anything about your life. I'm going to be making those decisions for you. So yeah, it's humanitarian, but you're losing all of your liberty.
Yeah. and
Um,
and that's what that's what basically breeds socialism is, people want
yeah,
the
that's what socialism is.
yeah.
Humanitarian authoritarianism.
Yep. People that want their government to care about them are socialists for a reason, because and
Mm-hmm.
that's how we get people like Stalin and Pol Pot, or Mao Zedong in power, is because they're like, yeah, we care about you, we know what's
Is
good for
because
you.
they have the monopoly on violence.
Yeah.
Yep. The monopoly on violence, that's what does it. One of the weakest one of the weakest gun control arguments I ever heard is that, yeah, the founding fathers wrote that, wrote the Second Amendment and said you should own guns, but they never imagined a world where you could fire multiple shots quickly. And that's one of the biggest lies ever told, because at the same time that the Civil War was going on, Civil War. Wow, no, Revolutionary War was going on. There were weapons that could fire more than one shot very quickly. Uh, there were what were essentially prototype machine guns at that point.
The puckle
Uh,
gun.
yeah, the puckle gun. There were guns that had more than one barrel that would all shoot at once. And you know what's interesting about these guns? The founding fathers knew about them and fucking loved them and
Well,
tried to get as many as they could, but they couldn't because they didn't really have money.
well, the other thing too is I think it was 4 years after, it was like 4 or 5 years after the Bill of Rights was essentially like passed.
Yeah,
When
ratified.
there was a merchant company, a private company,
Mhm.
that wrote to James Madison to ask whether or not it could purchase cannons, which are the pinnacle of weapons platforms and technologies at the time, were these cannons, whether or not it could buy cannons to protect its ships and
From piracy,
from piracy.
specifically.
And James Madison said cannons are covered under the Second Amendment.
Not only, so here's the thing, not only did he say that cannons are absolutely covered under the Second Amendment, he specifically addressed that that no weapon should be outlawed from private citizens' hands if it is a weapon that the state could acquire.
Correct.
Because again, to protect against tyranny, the citizens must be outfitted with the same weapons and the same materials to make war as the state would have against them.
Well, and the other thing too, the people that try to the people that try to ascribe meaning what the founding fathers meant, from 254 years in the future, they literally just got done overthrowing what they considered a tyrannical government.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that oh well, they don't mean they meant muskets or cannons. They meant the guns that would allow you, the weaponry that would allow you to topple a tyrant.
They didn't put muskets in the Second Amendment. They put arms in the Second Amendment. There's
as
a
far as
reason
I'm
for that.
concerned, that includes tactical nukes.
Yeah.
Correct. Ding 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 ding. I mean, here's the thing, right? Pepsi once had the 4th largest navy in the world. I would consider Pepsi a tyrant. A private company had a navy. Why can't I?
I know, right?
That's bullshit.
Maybe I want to go Bert in my A10 Warhog,
Yeah.
We need the Bert squad up in here.
That being said, and I'm going to let the listeners and you two in on a little secret. Gun control is dead.
I mean, essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it makes no sense to say I'm spiritual but not religious.
Going back to the last question, I believe we all agree strongly, and this matters to us a lot. I think that's the answer for everybody here.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page because we didn't finish that properly. Anyway, back to 17.
All my guns say boo.
Yeah. It makes no sense to say I'm spiritual but not religious. No, you can be spiritual and not religious.
Yeah.
This does not matter to me.
Yeah, this doesn't really matter to me at all, but no, you can absolutely be spiritual but not have a religious belief.
Yeah.
Somebody that's spiritual isn't necessarily somebody that's praying to a god, but it could be somebody that's partaking in very heavy meditation. Somebody that's searching their inner selves.
I know people who basically worship rocks.
I mean, my wife is Wiccan. She's not religious, but she's definitely spiritual. Yeah, I disagree strongly, but I really just don't care about this issue at all. Corey?
Same.
Brad?
Yeah. I could give a shit about what people do in their fucking spare time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Number 18. Who wants to do number 18?
It is not government's responsibility to regulate pollution.
I'm going to generally agree with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say agree strongly. I believe that the government should, at minimum, make sure you're not dumping shit into like rivers. But I do not think that the EPA should have the authority that it does.
Well, I think the A, government shouldn't exist, and B, that if a company or person or whatever was polluting, say, your land, that you would be able to deal with that appropriately.
Especially with that tactical nuke that you just bought earlier.
With after selling off a daughter, yeah, I will use my newly acquired ICBM to destroy my neighbor's house for tossing that banana peel in my backyard.
Okay, slow down there, Gandhi.
What? I mean, it's better than using my child soldiers.
Anyway, I say I'm gonna normally agree with this.
That might ruin the pH of my marijuana farm.
I'm going to say that I generally agree with this, but as far as this issue is concerned, I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah. I put agree and 2.
Yeah.
Same for you, Corey, across the board? Agreed to. Okay. Number 19, gay marriage should be forbidden. I disagree strongly.
I disagree strongly,
but this matter doesn't really matter to me all that much. Again, this is kind of settled case law at this point. I don't really care. A marriage really shouldn't be a component of state responsibility, so there's that issue. On top of that, I don't think we should be defining who can get married to who anyway,
well,
even with the government's involvement.
As a, as the famous libertarian meme says, I think that the gay couple should be able to protect their marijuana fields with AR-15s.
AR-15s, that's weak sauce.
Well, it's
get them fucking rifles. RPDs, dude.
Well, in a perfect world, it would be a private army, but
Corey, what are your thoughts?
Disagree strongly, but it doesn't really matter to me all that much because I don't care about other people's really marriage.
You don't care about our marriage, Corey?
Not really.
All right. Well,
if anybody doesn't know, these two are married to each other.
Yeah.
In spirit.
Yeah. We will be reincarnated as, I don't know, something.
A left and right nut.
Yeah. And in our next lifetime, we will be two balls in the same sack.
Of course, Corey is probably going to be the end up with cancer again, so that sack is going to be half full.
Well, I'll try to get by, whatever.
Number 20. It should be against the law to use hateful language towards another racial group. I strongly disagree. There's no such thing as hate speech.
Yeah, freedom of speech, baby. I get to say what the fuck
you can be the dickest dickweed that you want to be. That doesn't mean you should be fined or go to jail for it.
Yeah.
How much does this issue matter? That's the real question. I feel like right now
I'm like a 3 on this.
I feel like right now I care about this a lot more than I usually would at any other time.
Most definitely right now
because of the insane pushes that we're seeing from social media companies and from activist group to completely censor what you can and cannot say. Yeah. Again, I don't think you should be. I don't think you should be rewarded for going out and shouting racial slurs at people. But I don't think you should be going to jail, which is what a lot of people are advocating for.
Oh, yeah.
Or being fined. Or being removed from being able to ever speak publicly again. I don't think that should be acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, my thought on it is it's like, I am perfectly okay with someone getting punched for saying something, for yelling a racial slur. That being said, law, no. Because that gives the government authority to determine what is hateful language.
Yep, and I have an even bigger problem with that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say I strongly disagree, and I'm going to give this a 5 on my scale.
I'm giving it a 3. It's honestly, it's a 3 now just because it has been an issue lately. It's never really been an issue before. So, I mean...
I think it's the way that the world's going right now. I think it's going to be a lot bigger issue. It's going.
Yeah, I think this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue over the next decade.
Yeah, especially with the thought police and
Well, next year it might be a 5.
Very true.
We'll see.
True. 21. Government should ensure that all citizens meet a certain minimum standard of living.
See, this weird G word keeps popping up.
What, the word that shouldn't exist?
Yeah.
I
don't know when I don't know when it entered our vocabulary, but it really shouldn't be there.
I disagree strongly with this. I don't think the government should not be involved with its citizens' life to that degree.
No.
Yeah.
Especially given the opportunities that there are in our world. Here's the problem, right? Okay, what is the minimum standard of living that we're meeting?
$1 billion for everyone.
I'm being serious here. Okay, Because there are people that believe that minimum standard of living includes a house with multiple TVs and a computer and internet and television.
Well,
That's
honestly,
their minimum standard of living, with cell phones and a car. No, I'm sorry, but no. If we're defining the minimum standard of living is some place for you to sleep and access to water and food to sustain you, maybe I could agree. Like, I would probably agree with that. But nobody refers to the minimum standard of living as that.
Yeah,
And that's the
no.
problem here. Is I'm all for the government being able to supply, basic food, water, and a roof over their head, whether it be a large compound, full of beds for people to sleep in. um I could agree with that, but as far as it's concerned, where you know the minimum standard of living is all of these things that are not necessary to life, um or survival. No, I don't agree with that. I don't think the government should be involved in that kind at all.
I disagree strongly because I don't think the government should be involved. That being said, I think what they mean by a minimum standard of living is probably above the poverty line. That being
Yeah,
said, because of government intervention, the amount of people under the poverty line, like per capita, is rising.
way higher than it should be.
And especially now with coronavirus, 8 million people slip beneath the poverty line due to COVID, and that is directly the government's fault.
Yeah.
Yep.
How much does this issue matter, Corey?
To me, I mean, I mean, since I'm not really going to be, affected by this, not that much. But to just as a nation as a whole, I think I'm gonna stay at a 3.
Brad?
I'm a 3.
As somebody that actually is technically right around that poverty line, I'm going to say a 4. I'm going to strongly disagree, and I'm going to say a 4. If I fail, I should have to suffer the consequences. I don't want the government to come in and bail me out.
Well, the other thing I think that a lot of people don't realize is if you have literally in the United States, if you have $10 in your pocket and no debt, you are richer than like I think it's something ridiculous like 45% of the population.
I think it's over that.
I mean, somebody
I
with
mean, the world's population. I think it's way over that.
they're technically
Yeah.
richer than me.
To
Oh
be
yeah.
fair, Corey, because of all your debt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Number 22, Corey.
It is wrong to enforce moral behavior through the law because this infringes upon an individual's freedom.
uh, strongly
Strongly
agree
agree.
Yeah.
because who's to say what's moral?
Yeah.
Exactly.
People have different moral values uh, based on religion, based on life experience, based on the way that they were raised, whatever the issue is. Everyone has a completely different moral compass, and trying to encapsulate all of that into one singular government mandated moral compass is ridiculous, and you would never ever be able to fairly and justly uh, govern a body of people with that big a diversity of beliefs.
Hmm.
So for
Yeah,
me, strongly agree. How much does it matter?
I
5.
yeah, I strongly agree. If I'm giving this a 5.
Same.
Number 23. Immigration restrictions are economically protectionist. Non-citizens should be allowed to sell their labor domestically at a rate the market will pay. Corey? Brad?
I mean, if they're willing to work, let them work, I guess.
Brad?
I'm torn. I've seen this is like an issue that I'm still making my mind up about, just because I've seen arguments for both sides, both like a closed and open border society. I lean more towards open border, so I'm going to say agree.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it really doesn't matter, and I think a lot of people, the thing is, there's a very small group of people that, when Republicans like to say, oh, they're going to take our jobs. If someone with, if an immigrant with, little to no valuable skills is able to take your job, I think you should take a long, hard look at the value of the skills that you have if your job got taken by uh,
So
an
that
immigrant.
argument, I don't necessarily agree with the immigrants are coming to take your jobs. I don't necessarily agree with with that argument, but I am going to present the counter argument to what you just presented,
Okay.
and it would be this, right? Okay, let's say you have an employee at a factory. Okay,
Okay.
you have to because of minimum wage laws. Let's say you have to pay them $15 an hour, and because they're full time, you also have to pay for healthcare. And on top of that, just to bring them on as an employee, you have to pay tens of thousands of dollars, set up all these different accounts, and get them into the system. Okay. Now compare that to Jose, who came across the border illegally, who is willing to work for $5 an hour. You don't have to buy him health insurance. He'll work 55 hours a week. You don't have to pay him overtime, and you don't have to pay the administrative costs of hiring him.
Okay.
Sure, you're gonna have to spend an extra month to get him up to the standard of the other guy, but you're saving a fuck ton of money. So
Yeah.
again, I don't necessarily agree with that argument, but that is the argument that they're making.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's bad. I'm I'm not a fan of the minimum wage.
No, I'm not a fan of minimum wage either.
Yeah. So
But
I understand. I
but like,
understand the counter argument, and
yeah, but like I'm saying, I don't think it necessarily is about the person who's getting replaced. I think it's more about the company that's hiring them, and all the restrictions that the government has put on them, where it's so much more economically viable to just not hire somebody legally.
yeah,
I
no,
think that's where the problem lies.
yeah,
So it's not. I don't think it's a failing on the individual that gets replaced. I think in that case, it's a failing on the government and the company together.
yeah, that's fair too.
So anyway, time for my opinion on this. I actually disagree with this statement, and it's going to come down to one question that has come up in recent years, which is, what is the effect of automation going to have on our country? Because we're currently in a position where automation is going to nuke the job market in the next 2 decades. And right now, I don't think necessarily bringing in 1 million people every single year is a smart idea.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's my position. Now, I'm not a closed borders kind of person. I'm not saying we shouldn't allow anybody in. I think we should still definitely allow people in, especially people, refugees, asylum seekers. Um, but I think we should start trying to rein in how much we're bringing in people that are specifically for the workforce, people that are coming from other countries with degrees. I think we need to, at this point, again, unless it's like a field that we really need, help in. At this point, we need to be addressing what the future of automation means for our country, because it is coming. It is unavoidable. It will come, and it is going to put I believe the estimate is over the next 2 decades is it's probably going to put between 60 and 70 million people out of work.
Now,
that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. However, I think automation will also create a lot of jobs.
It will definitely create new jobs. It'll create approximately 15 million. That's still a massive deficit.
It is. But I mean,
now,
I think
here's the thing, though. We don't know what the future holds. So there might be an increase of jobs in an entirely new sector that has yet to be created. There might be a massive uptick in jobs in a sector that's already established that needs to rapidly expand. We don't know. And the problem is that because we don't know, and because that's going to be one of the biggest economic earthquakes and upheavals that our country will have seen since the Great Depression, I think we need to be careful moving forward. That's why I said decrease the immigration, do not eliminate it, but decrease it. I'm not all about cutting it off entirely. I think we just need to move forward with extreme caution and have plans in place for what happens if the worst case scenario for automation occurs. That's my opinion.
You emigrate to second world countries.
So Russia?
Yeah, where jobs would be available, but they're not necessarily industrialized as far as we are.
This is the second time you used it, Brad. Do you understand what the distinction between first, second, and third world country is?
Yeah.
Do you?
No.
Okay. So a first world country is a country that is aligned with NATO. A second world country is a country that is aligned with the USSR, and a third world country is any country that's not aligned with either.
Oh, well, then
it has nothing to do with living standards, though. That is what it's come to mean in the minds of most people.
I knew that fact, actually.
Good job, Corey.
Anyway, whatever. Move somewhere. Become
I'm
a pirate.
Proud of you, Corey.
Swamp.
Don't think that was sarcastic. I'm proud of you.
If you lose my only point being, if you lose your job, or and human ingenuity doesn't create a new one, or
go live with Brad on his compound.
He'll find come live with me on my compound. Sow the marijuana fields, or just become like a pirate or something. That's fun. Half of I think anyone that played Assassin's Creed Black Flag has at least a small interest in becoming a pirate, so might as well.
How much does the matter issue to you guys?
It really doesn't. I'm like a 2 on this one.
A 2. Corey, you said what?
I could fucking care less. I'm a 1.
Okay. This is actually a 5 for me. This is actually a really big sticking point that I think is really important for our country moving forward.
Well, I mean, like the thing is, like, you could have said that like about every new technology. It's like, well, okay, cars put horses out of work, or put carriage builders out of work, but then it's like, well, someone needs to build the cars. Now most machines build cars. Well, if you work at a car manufacturer and you've gotten replaced by a machine, you can go manufacture that machine.
Well, here's the problem. The machines are building the machines.
Yeah.
And you only need one or 2 people to monitor the machines building the machines versus the 15 to 20 people to make the car.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And so, like I said, it's going to create jobs, but the amount of jobs that it's displacing is magnitudes less.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that, for me personally, this is a much bigger question, and it has nothing to do about people being immigrants. This has to come down to Americans. It is about Americans and making sure that our citizens are actually have choices going into the future, and we don't have a job like a situation where we have a 10 to 20% unemployment rate in the next 2 decades.
Well, I'm firmly of the opinion, and I agree with you, it will be a problem, but I don't think that there isn't going to be a solution. I think a solution will be found, especially if
I'm hoping,
20% of people, if literally 1/5 of the population needs to find that solution, I think they will find that solution.
That's the hope.
Yep. I mean, people are always going to need food. People are always going to need water.
Those machines are going to need their oil.
Yeah. I mean, it might make the job standard, like someone who's used to working indoors in a heated factory making cars might have to go work on an oil rig, but ultimately will end up with a job.
Hopefully. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Number 24. An official language should be set, and immigrants should have to learn it.
This issue matters nothing to this is like I'm neutral on this.
Like I generally agree with the sentiment, but at the same time it's just like I don't really care.
Yep. Neutral and extremely little.
Yeah, I'm gonna say neutral too. I really don't care at all about this.
The thing I've
it
noticed...
is nice to be able to communicate with people, but generally if somebody's moving to America, they probably have at least a little understanding of English and can speak some of it, enough to be able to communicate with somebody. So
I found a interesting correlation, and this is highly anecdotal evidence. But the people that I know that have the people that I know who have expressed this sentiment to me, that an official language should be set and that immigrants should have to learn English. If they've traveled to other countries, complain about the native population of that country not understanding the visitor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted that since like England like owned like a quarter of the world, like English is technically like kind of the world's language in a way.
It kind of is at this point, which
Yeah.
is funny, especially when you realize that more people speak Chinese than speak English. But at this point, yes, English is the language of business and economies.
Yeah. So like
and politics.
For now, da da da.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Joe Biden gets his way, we're all going to be kowtowing to Xi Jinping anyway.
Not if I can help it.
The reason why,
please, like, if you want to do something about that, Brad, go right ahead.
The reason why, like, we're Chinese or Mandarin is like the one that is like spoken the most is because China just has a shitload of fucking people there.
Yeah.
Talk about something being unsustainable.
Whatever maximizes economic growth is good for the people.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I misunderstood that.
whatever maximizes growth is good for the people.
No.
So let's start with a good old racial cleansing.
Yeah, no. I just saw economic growth is good for the people, and I'm like, whatever. Sure.
There's some big caveats to what you're doing to maximize that growth.
Yeah.
Debasing currency, that's gonna maximize economic growth, but that definitely ain't gonna be good for the people.
Yep.
There's a lot of situations I can come up with that would increase economic growth but be terrible for people.
Invest in Bitcoin, silver and gold, rainwater.
Hey, that last one's illegal.
Well, yeah. You know what? I actually looked into it because like I saw it being parodied, or not parodied, but like parroted everywhere. Especially like on
I know what
libertarian
you're
sites.
gonna say. Yeah,
it's not that illegal.
You're allowed so much at a time.
It's regulated way more than it should be. That being said, like joking around that like collecting rainwater is illegal.
The environment.
All my homies hate the environment.
I mean,
I'm joking.
Yeah. How much do you care about this issue?
I put it 2.
I'm putting it 2. Corey?
Yep. Same.
Okay. Racial issues will never be resolved. It is human nature to prefer one's own race. So, right, it had me in the first half, not gonna lie. The second half, it lost me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think there's going to be racial issues, but I do not think it's human nature to prefer one's own race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to answer this question.
Yeah.
I put
'Cause
disagree.
I agree with the first part, and I disagree. I strongly disagree with the second part. So I should probably also put disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But however, that issue really doesn't matter to me.
I'm gonna set it at a 2.
People with a criminal history should not be able to vote. I think that I disagree strongly with that statement.
For me, it depends on the crime that's been committed.
Yeah.
For example, I don't if you've been convicted of a drug offense, I don't care. But if you are a serial rapist or a pedophile,
Well,
murderer,
preferably those people will already have been sent through the wood chipper. So, but I mean,
back to the wood chipper argument.
Yeah, but no, we had a wood chipper argument on the podcast that unfortunately got deleted. But the thing as it stands right now, and the reason why I disagree with it strongly is anything that if you become a felon, you aren't able to vote, and the ridiculous things that you can become a felon for,
Yeah.
non-violent crimes, victimless crimes that
Yeah.
you become a felon for. Not to mention, so not only can you not vote, but you are also being put into government-supported private prisons that essentially turn you into slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've changed my mind in that regard. I'm going to say that I disagree with this. I'm gonna set that at a 2 as well.
I mean, yeah. That being said, for it, I put disagree strongly, but it's like a 2.
Yeah, I definitely think there are some people that you would not get, like you wouldn't get life in prison for the crime. You're not gonna get a death sentence for the crime. I still don't think you should be able to vote at that point, like that at that. But I think generally, I think I'm gonna agree with you there, and then I disagree with this. I think most of the things that people are barred from voting after doing is too insignificant
I mean,
to
most of it.
justify removing that right.
I mean, well, you want to talk about like
Sorry, privilege. It is considered a privilege and not a right to vote. I actually had that argument on Reddit today.
Well, people are because the election just happened. People talk about suppressing the black vote, suppressing the vote in the black community, but the same people who argue that voted one of the biggest voter suppressors when it comes to the black community into office, and that was Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Oh
one
God,
of the
she's
biggest,
egregious.
one
And
of the
Biden too.
yeah,
Biden and Kamala Harris are terrible for the black community. When you look at things like crime, policing, and imprisonment.
Well, I mean, because a lot of the people, 50% of the prison population, I think, is African American. 99% of it is, or it's not 99. It's something close to that though. I think it's like 93% of the prison population is male. A lot of people,
and a lot of the prison population is for nonviolent or nonviolent and victimless crimes.
yeah, and the fact that you take away the vote, just looking at it from a black community perspective, the fact that you can take away that many votes from that community for literally no reason
Marijuana
is
possession,
completely ridiculous.
which is the most bullshit charge ever. You had marijuana.
Well, and I mean, one of the things too, it's like, there's no such thing as a misdemeanor drug offense.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Corey, what'd you put for the issue?
that's why I disagree strongly.
I disagree, but it doesn't really matter to me.
Did you put a 1?
I put a 2.
Okay. Next question. Marijuana should be legal. You agree strongly?
Yep. And I think it matters a lot, honestly. It's just...
I absolutely agree with it that it should be legal. I'm going to set it at a 2 for how much it matters for me. Mostly because while I used to be somebody that smoked marijuana, I don't anymore because it actually started making me sick. And even the smell of it these days makes me want to vomit, and I don't know why. So I don't have a problem with marijuana. I just don't want to do it, and I really don't care that much about pushing it. Speaking of which, I don't know if you heard, but an act got passed today in the House to legalize marijuana. I don't know
It was
if you heard about
decriminalize
that.
marijuana.
Wait, sorry, decriminalized. Let me rephrase that. It was decriminalized. Thank you for the correction.
Unfortunately, that act is going to be dead on arrival in the Senate.
Probably. And I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it's going to be because some of the other stuff tacked on there.
Yeah, I actually disagree with this. Number 28.
You disagree with marijuana legalization?
I do. It shouldn't be legalized. It should be decriminalized.
So it still shouldn't be legal.
Well, there's a big difference between legalization and decriminalization. Legalization just means you can do it. However, that means the government can also get involved in regulating that thing. If it's decriminalized, you won't get in trouble for it. It's not illegal to possess. However, the government can't get involved, which I'm all for.
I think you're mostly correct there. Here's the problem though. If it's decriminalized, it can still be listed as a controlled substance, and so it can still be confiscated by the DEA. It can still be controlled to an extent if it's if it's decriminalized. If it is legalized, that is no longer the case. Yes, the state still gets some controls over, say, like the sale of it and being able to tax it, but if the U.S. legalized marijuana, the DEA wouldn't be able to do anything. Whereas if it was decriminalized, the DEA still might be able to come in and say, you can't have this. This is still technically illegal.
What happens?
So you don't go to jail, you don't get charged with anything, but they can still confiscate it.
Well, what's happening now in states where marijuana is legalized is the DEA's job has just become regulating marijuana. So if you don't have this license, or if you don't have X, Y, or Z, you as a business can lose your product because
Correct.
The DEA can come in and take it and also take your money.
Correct, because it is still not legalized at a federal level.
Well, no, not just because of that, but because of
because of how it's been legalized in those states.
Yeah,
and the controls around it.
I mean, the spirit...
something can be decriminalized and still be illegal.
But when people talk about decriminalization, I think especially when it comes to the people who are writing the laws, lawmakers...
So here's the problem, right? This question isn't asking about decriminalization, it's talking about legality.
I know, that's why I said I disagree. Pedantic shit. Agree strongly, 5.
Jesus, man.
Move on. Marijuana, good.
I mean,
government, no get involved.
I mean, honestly,
Well, you know what? I think you've changed my mind, Brad. I'm gonna strongly disagree, and that's because I believed all drugs should be legalized. I mean, it's not what the question asks, but it's what I think.
That might be... I think that's on the second part of the quiz.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
Okay. Number 29. The state should fine television stations for broadcasting offensive language.
I disagree strongly.
No. I actually care about that a lot now that it's been brought to my attention.
Yeah, that's
what the fuck kind of question is that? Oh, that's right. I forgot. This isn't just a test for the U.S.
Yeah.
I forgot that we're including the UK and other countries where that is a thing.
Yeah.
France, Germany.
I disagree strongly, and I'm rating this as a 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We're all on the same page there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It does not make sense to understand the motivations of terrorists because they are self-evidently evil. I strongly disagree with this.
I disagree. I think the what they mean by the question are like, no, I can't even say that. Yeah, I disagree strongly.
Yep.
The
And
the, the,
I'm
the
going
people.
to, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go into a little bit of depth about this. So terrorism, whether or not that you agree or disagree with it, I disagree with terrorism. Terrorism is generally caused by a sense of oppression in one way or another, in which the case that the only way to be heard or recognized or legitimized is to create or do something so terrible or egregious in the eyes of the culture that you are targeting or being targeted by, so as to make a statement and not be forgotten. Now, we generally that's going to consider like mass murder, or bombings or things like that, and that's what terrorism is going to fall into. However, to claim that those things are self-evidentially evil, um, not necessarily.
And the other thing,
And
just to tack on, I agree with you. Just to tack on, the question is asking, it does not make sense to understand the motivations, which I think is untrue.
yes, and that's one of the points I was getting to. Is sometimes one of the best ways to deal with uh, stopping these kinds of acts is to figure out why these acts are being committed in the first place and trying to find a way to remedy that situation. Now, the answer might be that no, these people actually are evil because they believe in an ethno state where all people of a different, race or religion should be executed on the spot. Now, that actually is evil, and you're not going to find common ground with those people. But there's other cases of terrorism that occur where somebody strongly believes in something, they don't believe they're ever going to be heard, they do something, and it's just like, well, especially if it becomes a problem, maybe that is something that should be addressed, especially if they believe they themselves are combating a great evil. There are definitely shades of gray that can pop up in cases of terrorism that if you don't take the time to understand, you're never going to be able to find the root of the problem and address it, or to even understand if you can address it.
Well, and the other thing too, the literally the definition of terrorist has changed drastically to the
Yeah.
point where you see people being called terrorists because they went to a protest, or
Or they or I've always also seen this one on Twitter. Seeing people get called terrorists for going into the trans community and using the wrong pronouns.
yeah, no, I
I've
mean,
I've seen that being labeled as terrorism,
well, the
which is kind of absurd.
Twitter was calling who the McCloskeys are.
Yes.
Yeah, the uh, uh, what were they called? The cul-de-sac commandos.
Yes.
They were they were
I know who they are.
they were called terrorists because they were
Defending their home.
yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, that's why I strongly disagree. That, however, that being said, I put this as a 1.
I'm actually going to leave this at a 3. I think our country in general needs to do a bit better in trying to understand our adversaries in general, including those that are considered terrorists.
I do agree.
Corey?
Disagree strongly and a 2.
Oh, okay. So kind of across the spectrum there in the issue mattering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're finally on to the second page of questions.
The final one.
Only 24 more to go.
Only 24.
After 30. This is part 2 of 2. Complete this page and you will get your results. Good, because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be taking this.
Yeah.
Corey, you're up. Read the question.
The lower the taxes, the better off we all are.
Your thought on that, Mr. Corey?
I think I'm gonna agree with Jordan. Flat tax or no tax at all. Now we're that.
Brad?
I agree strongly with this statement.
I'm gonna agree with this statement.
Boo, boo.
I'm not somebody that believes in a 0% tax. I'm not somebody that agrees in no taxes. Period. In order for a state to actually function, there has to be some form of income, and you're not going to get that off of voluntary donations.
Who says we wanted to?
I'm sorry, Brad, but I'm not an anarchist.
Boo! Boo this man! Boo!
You know what? I also don't like Halo. Just for that, I don't like Halo. Call me a heathen.
You're
I
allowed.
dare you.
You're allowed to not like Halo.
Oh, you're not going to call me names now?
No.
Okay.
I understand. I especially after like Halo 4 and 5, I
understand. There has to be some form of taxation in any kind of government. I believe that needs to be enacted either via
There's that G word
tax,
again, man.
either through a flat tax or through a national sales tax. But the income tax as it stands now is terrible. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say that I agree. And I'm going to rate this issue as a 3.
I mean, in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. I like the sales tax. Fine for luxuries. Doesn't matter to me. I'd rather that than, what's going on right now. I'd be with how much I spend. I'd be way better off if I had no income tax, but only had to pay sales tax.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that many luxuries.
Yep. Corey, 32.
Oh man, Cyberpunk goes from $65 to $75, but I made an extra, $400 on my paycheck. How will I survive?
Minority groups that have faced discrimination should receive help from the state to get on equal footing. I don't think minority groups have faced discrimination since, probably after the civil rights movement.
A little bit, maybe. Not
Yeah.
in the last couple decades.
No.
Not at the level we used to see. I mean, there's obviously everybody's going to have somebody discriminate against them at some point for some stupid reason. But Brad, I'm interested to hear your opinions on this one.
See, there's an S word in there that makes this difficult to answer.
I see that S word.
I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be okay with that. That being said, I don't have any actual life experience that would help me answer this question. I've seen examples of how they've faced discrimination, but from the state to get on equal footing, I think the state, honestly, is a lot of the reason that they have faced that discrimination, especially in things like policing. I don't know. I don't know how to answer this one. I'm going to say
there's nothing wrong with saying neutral.
I'm going neutral. I want to say disagree, and I will also want to say agree. So I think that's why the neutral,
Corey?
Neutral option is there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with the same, but since technically I'm not in the minority group, but I don't want to receive help from the state to get on equal footing. I feel like there's no sense of accomplishment within that, right? If I mess up and I get further behind than the other person, right? I want to make that up by my own strength. I don't want the government helping me out at that point, right?
No, that's understandable. So what's going to be your answer for that one?
Neutral, and honestly, probably a 2.
Okay. I guess it's time to give my opinion. So I'm going to be making a bit of a small statement here. I'm going to say agree. And I'm actually going to lean towards strongly agree. But that's going to come with some caveats. So I'm going to say agree. But that's going to come with some caveats, being that what we have seen is for example, after the civil rights movement, there were a lot of things that moved. There are a lot of movements that the state made to increase the equality between the African American community and the white community, and they succeeded. The problem is there were certain problems that arose. Some of it was from discrimination, and some of it was from the community itself, which resulted in that equal footing not having the effect that it should have to truly make them equal. But that more came as a failing in specific communities. Large communities, yes, but specific communities. In many smaller communities, you don't see these same problems among the African American populace. You just don't, because they have achieved the equality, they have achieved the equal footing, and it's not because they faced they benefited more from the state's help. It's because they accepted it, and they recognized their own responsibility for themselves and their family and their communities. So I believe in general it's a good idea to do that, but as it applies to the world today, it's not necessarily needed, because that help has been given and been offered, and it's not been taken.
I think it's
The communities have largely failed themselves, and this comes back to something I touched on like 2 hours ago, which is a lot of it comes from the failure of the family unit.
Yeah, I think it's more so the culture than the government.
Correct. Yes. So I agree with the idea of aiding the minority groups that have faced discrimination, especially right after that discrimination is ended, as far as the state is concerned, from a state level. However, if that help is not accepted and the community fails itself, if that should not be given again. They should not then be given special treatment. So I agree, but past that point, like I said, there are some caveats on understanding why I agree there, and to what points I believe. So how much does this issue matter to me? About a 2. I've seen both aspects of the community succeeding and the community failing. As a lot of as this is going to get me marked as racist, but as it sits today, your community is going to determine how successful you are as an African American right now in this country, because either you're going to grow up with a family and a support network of a community of loving, law-abiding citizens and neighbors, or you're going to grow up in something that's crime-riddled, and you're most likely going to end up falling down that path because nobody's there to help correct you, because your community stopped caring about bringing up anybody in a way that's going to create an independent and successful individual.
I don't think that's I do think that's true, but I think the reason I would disagree, I disagree that it is racist, only because I think that's true for literally every ethnic group.
Yes, but we see a disparity of it in the African American community.
So
I think people pay attention to it more in that community. I mean, it's
I'm talking statistically. There's a very major disparity.
I've actually seen this personally, well, not technically seen it, but I have two friends, right? They both lived in Chicago. One had a mother and father that he was with. The other one was, grew up in the inner city. The one that had a mother and father is very successful, and the other one kind of struggles to pay for internet.
Well,
Yeah.
the single biggest metric when it comes to success in the United States is being raised in a 2-parent household and whether or not your parents got married before they had you.
Yep.
Or
And
entered into a
that's
union of some sort.
enter a
Devoted
union.
themselves to it.
Yeah.
Devoted themselves to each other.
I mean, it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. That is the single biggest metric for success in the United States.
And here's the thing, though: both of those things come from community teachings, community and family teachings. And so when those things fail, when those ideas of finding somebody to settle down with and finishing high school and having a stable life before having children, um, when those ideas in the community aren't even talked about and they're considered to be antithetical to your identity as a group or as a culture or as a community, yeah, you're going to see massive failings in that group and culture and community as a result, and it's going to be on them. Eventually, somebody's going to have to take responsibility for that, and it's not the government's fault, and it's not the other community's faults.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's kind of a sad topic because there's all this information out there that could help so many people, but a lot of people just don't care. They believe that they're just victims of the system and that the government should be there to help them get out of it. And to an extent, our government has done that a bit with a lot of our welfare systems, but they're never going to get out of it. They aren't. Their families are going to be stuck like that until somebody decides to take up the stick, be an adult, and realize that the way that their family and their community has been living has been detrimental to their development, and make that conscious choice to get out of the victim mentality.
You can kind of see that disparity between me and my brother, because my brother is constantly in and out of jail, but like the people that he surrounded himself with, are the same people that are going in and out of jail with him. And then you look at my friend group where none of my friends have ever been in jail, and all of my friends are slightly successful.
Technically, one of our friends has been in prison overnight. You know who I mean, Corey.
All right. Well, okay.
One of our do I know this person?
Yeah, you do.
Text me.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, right? Charges were dropped eventually, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't, they ended up not having to do basically.
Oh,
I think they got fined.
Okay. No, you know what? I think I know who you're talking about. Never mind.
Corey, do you know?
Did I put it up in the chat?
The
Zencaster chat.
Oh yeah, them too. But no, I'm going to.
Oh yeah.
Because I had to go pick them up the next morning.
I remember.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, you told me that story.
Yeah.
Although I was.
Yeah. No, they were cleared. They were cleared of their charges. And I think they ended up one charge still stuck, but it was such a tiny misdemeanor. They ended up having to pay a fine, but that was it.
Yeah.
The other one was a much more serious charge that could have resulted in jail time.
Yeah.
So. What was the serious one? Throw that up in the chat.
Yeah. I remember that.
It was an assault charge. It could have very easily resulted in jail time. I was gonna say it was I think they were charged with assault, disorderly conduct, and one other thing. And I think the assault and disorderly conduct got dropped.
Yeah, because they couldn't.
Because it turned out that what he was saying was the truth, and that the family had lied about it.
Yeah, because his
and
story...
they kept changing their story over what happened, and so as a result, the DA dropped the charges.
But that being said, the point stands that the group of people that Corey has surrounded himself with is a lot different than that of his brothers. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should move on.
We spent a lot of time on this question, but I think it was meaningful conversation.
So. It absolutely was.
Yeah.
However, we still have 22 of these to go.
Yeah, it's almost midnight.
Yeah.
33. It is wrong to question a leader in wartime.
Strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree, but I'm also not particularly pertinent caring about this issue.
I put a 2.
I put a 1. Corey, what'd you put?
Disagree strongly, put a 2.
Okay. Tighter regulation would have prevented the collapse of the lending industry.
So here's the problem, right? So the lending industry collapsed because it wasn't because of a lack of regulation. It was because they incentivized lending to higher risk people.
Yeah, I don't see how the geniuses
mandated it in a way.
I don't see how the geniuses that lead the lending industry couldn't have seen how that could have gone wrong. That being said, I put disagree, and I put it as a 3 for one simple reason: that is, America is founded on the idea that that stupid people can sell things to stupid people. So,
Timmy,
you know what? I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to put it as a 2. Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think tighter regulation would have prevented it.
No.
Corey?
Same
feeling?
Yeah. It makes sense and is fair that some people make much more money than others. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Strongly disagree, and I'm going to slot that as a 5. Guess what? The guy that comes up with and designs the better car deserves more money than the person that packages meat at Walmart.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, I think you
heard the question wrong. Yeah, it makes sense and is fair that some people make much more money than others.
Yes, that's correct.
So why are you disagreeing?
I said strongly agree.
Oh, okay.
I strongly agree.
We misheard you then.
Maybe I misspoke. Then that would be my bad. But no,
okay.
I've got it strongly agree, and I have it at a 5. Yep. Maybe my mic cut out or something.
No, I heard disagree. And I was kind of confused.
Yeah.
I think you did misspoke.
I have it at the exact same thing. Strongly agree, and it's a 5.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it makes a lot of sense. 36. Toppling enemy regimes to spread democracy will make the world a safer place. No?
I mean, it didn't happen in the Cold War.
Here's the thing, right? We've toppled regimes that are democratic and put in non-democratic regimes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to disagree with this. But this is also a 2 for me. Maybe it's a 3. I don't know.
I mean, I kind of care, but also really don't. I'm a 2.
Yeah, this hasn't been as much of a problem recently, though people are definitely going to say that it has been. It really hasn't.
Yeah, especially since a lot more countries are starting to become more civilized these days.
Number 37. The state has no business regulating alcohol and tobacco products. Brad, I'm interested in your perspective on this one.
So, this might seem weird. I put agree.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have this at a 1.
Okay. I mean, I also figured that.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I disagree with this. I definitely think there needs to be some regulation over any substance that can kill you. Yeah, I honestly think the current regulations are a bit too strong, and don't make sense. But I definitely think that they should have some regulations there. I don't think they should be abolished, like what Brad would probably like.
I don't have an issue Never mind. This is going to take too long to explain. Never mind. Just, yeah, I agree. I have it at 1.
I've got it disagreeing.
Libertarian,
I've got it at
that's
2.
my reason. 38.
Yeah. Corey, what's your idea?
I'm neutral. I don't really take alcohol or tobacco products, so I'm neutral, and it doesn't really mean anything to me.
Okay, 38. Brad.
If an unwed teen becomes pregnant, abortion may be a responsible choice.
I mean, I agree with this.
Yeah, I've got to agree. And
again, as long as it's before that brain develops, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that is the responsible choice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree, and I'm going to say that I'm going to label this as a 4. I think people need to be more responsible with their bodies and do it in a timely manner. Don't wait until the last minute. That's just more pain for you, and it's more expensive, and it's a waste of time. And at that point, you might actually be killing a person.
Yeah. So.
But, yeah.
Corey? I have this at a 2.
Agree, and I'm gonna go with a 3.
Okay. Number 39, international trade agreements should require environmental protections and workers' rights, meaning no free trade with countries that lack pollution controls or labor protections.
Then how are we going to get our iPhones?
Okay, well, actually, bringing up the iPhone thing, and I want to hear just quick little sidebar. Would you guys pay more for a fair trade phone?
What's a fair trade phone?
So, like, let's say tomorrow I start an iPhone factory, right?
Yeah.
I pay people a fair wage for the work that they're doing, and I don't overwork them. Would you guys pay more? Because obviously that's going to cost more.
How much more?
Let's say it costs you $200 more.
Well, what's the base price of the product?
Let's say it's an iPhone.
If it's an iPhone,
I don't have an iPhone. I don't know what the price of an iPhone is.
Okay, all right. Well, let's say
give me an actual example.
Let's say of something that you would buy.
Well, okay. So here's the thing, right? I have a phone. I want to say I paid $300 for my phone.
Okay, let's say it costs $450.
Would I pay $450?
If you knew that no one was exploited.
With one additional caveat, I would say yes. Which is, was it made entirely in America?
Yes.
Then yeah, I would probably pay $450.
Okay.
That's all. If I knew that it was built and manufactured in America, and there was no exploitative practices or anything, and it was $450 versus $300, I would probably say yeah, maybe I would.
Okay.
Again, so if anybody doesn't know, like I said earlier, I kind of hover around the poverty line, my wife and I. So whenever you have big purchases like that, you can be a dumbass and put it on credit cards, or you can wait for tax season to come back around, and then you get that big lump check, and then you can buy things with that and not have to acquire debt. And then after that, so you don't have to buy another phone for a long time, you can just be a responsible human being and just not destroy the shit you have, and you don't have to worry about replacing it. I know it's a really controversial idea, especially for people my age, but yeah, you don't have to buy a phone every year. You can wait like 4 or 5 years, because guess what? The phone that you bought 4 or 5 years ago still works. At least as long as you're responsible with it and not a fucking dumbass like most of the people.
The phone that I have, I've had for over a year and a half now, and it's the only thing that's bad about it now. It can be sometimes slow, and the battery starting to drain a bit more, but that's about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just be smart with it. Anyway, let's go back to the question. International trade agreements should require environmental protections and workers' rights. I want to say I disagree here, but I really am not big on this issue at all. As far as environmental protections are concerned, I think that should have nothing to do with the trade agreements, but more international diplomacy with different countries. And the workers' rights things, I mean, I feel like that's basically on that same spectrum.
I put.
But so I'm going to say disagree, and I'm going to give this a 1.
That's what I did. I think ultimately, I don't think that the trade agreement should require it, but I do think, I think with enough options, people would choose one, especially if they care about the environment and or labor protections, like workers' rights. I think they would be able to choose not to.
Yeah, I agree with that. Corey, I have a feeling you might be in the same boat.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's whatever to me.
Don't really care.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is, like, when you look at like fair trade products, like fair trade, uh, fair trade like chocolate or fair trade coffee is really big. The problem is, there aren't enough companies willing to do fair trade practices.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's
right now,
you
at least.
can't buy a phone. You can't buy a fair trade phone.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
Move.
people are willing to, and I think, companies like that, companies that don't do that are under enough scrutiny, and the scrutiny is ever growing, that I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Moving on. Gay equality is a sign of progress. I mean,
I guess.
yeah, I'm going to say agree. I mean, it's not really been an issue for the last couple of years.
Yep.
I mean, you're always going to have people that are actually homophobic, not the fake homophobic that Twitter calls people. But I mean, after the Supreme Court decision about 5 years ago, it's not really been an issue. I mean, you have some rare cases where states still have it that you can discriminate based upon, sexuality, which I think needs to be addressed. But as to the statement that gay equality is a sign of progress, I mean, it's true.
I mean, the
I'm not
statement
100%
itself is
sure what the
factually
question.
true.
As I say, I'm not sure what the question here that I'm supposed to agree or disagree with. I guess you could disagree that it's a sign of progress. And you say, no, it's a sign of regression. I mean, I guess there could be some people that believe that, but
I mean, I have it agree. I have it at a 3. It is a sign of progress. I think
I
equality
think
is a
it's
sign of progress.
yeah. I think I am agreeing, and I'm gonna put it at a 3 because I mean, like I said, I think those states need to kind of get around to making sure that there's no discrimination based on sexuality, but
That S word
uh,
again.
yeah, the S word. Um, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure what it's trying to ask me here.
Yeah, I just put
Like,
agree. I put it at a 3.
it's just like this is a statement of fact. Do you believe it should be a statement of fact? Okay, Corey, where are you? Where's your stance on that?
I agree, and I put it at a 2.
Okay, 41. The state should be able to put a criminal to death if the crime was serious enough.
Agree.
Strongly agree. Brad, I have a feeling you agree with this. Oh no, because it has the S word.
I put neutral.
Okay, because you think that the people should do it. It should be the mob.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm
Through
joking.
the wood chipper. Through the wood chipper with all the child molesters.
Yeah. Neutral 1. State shouldn't be able to do it.
I'm gonna say I agree strongly, but I'm gonna put it at a 1.
Again, I mean, all that does is give the state the monopoly on violence. So
Number 42. The military budget should be scaled back. I mean, I agree with that.
I agree strongly.
Corey?
I agree, but I also don't care about it.
Okay, so what are you putting that as?
1.
Yep. Brad, what's your scale?
I put it at a 4 because there are studies that like the literally just scaling back like essentially the foreign aid that we give our allies and removing our military from the countries that it is currently stationed in, including our allies, would drastically reduce the military budget without actually making our military weaker.
Yeah. I was just say I said agree, and I also pegged it at a 4.
Economic competition results in innumerable innovations that improve all of our lives.
Strongly agree. I'm putting it at a 4.
Corey?
Yep. Competition's always better.
Yep.
Yep.
I was gonna say again. This is one of those. It's a statement of fact.
That's a question? What?
Like, how is this a question? I mean, I guess you do have some like hardcore like actual communists that are just like, no, competition is no good. It just slows down the resources for getting people things like food. I haven't had food in 3 days.
Yeah. We don't simp for them.
Yeah, we don't. No, fuck the communists. All my homies hate communists. 44. It is not our place to condemn other cultures as backwards or barbaric.
I disagree with that.
I was gonna say I'm gonna disagree with that. I don't think we should sit and say, oh yeah, cannibalism, that's fine.
I'm gonna disagree with that and put that at a 2.
I'm gonna disagree with it and put it at a 1.
Oh yeah.
I think the how do you put it? Like the I put neutral in a 1 just because I think like the spirit of the question means more like other countries, and I mean it's.
I don't know. I think it means other cultures.
Yeah, but I mean,
because it does say cultures.
But I think it means other cultures, like other cultures in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's no need to condemn them. Well, what if neutral 1.
So here's
Skip.
the thing, right? Here's the thing,
Next.
right? So here's the thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
China puts people in labor camps and uses child labor and does re-education for people that have certain religious beliefs. I condemn that totally. I think that's barbaric. I think most people would think that. But how many people are willing to come out and say that is actually barbaric to do that to people? I don't think a lot. I think people will say, oh, it's wrong, but are you willing to actually condemn it? I don't think a lot of people would, so I'm going to say I disagree. I don't really care about this issue as much because this is more of a semantics question than anything, let's be real. But that's where I stand and why I stand there.
That's why I'm keeping it neutral.
Corey, next question.
When one group is slaughtering another group somewhere in the world, we have a responsibility to intervene.
Responsibility? No.
Nah, I disagree.
Should we? Probably, maybe. It depends. It depends on what's happening. But we don't have the responsibility to, so I'm going to disagree.
I disagreed. I have this at a 2. I mean, we don't have a responsibility, and there are many, many, many other ways that we can do it than actually like military intervention.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree and put it at a 3.
Odds are, they're getting their weaponry from us. So just like, stop that.
Stop that! Don't do it. No.
This question's gonna be fucking spicy.
Yeah.
Corey, what's your answers to this?
I disagree and put it at a 2.
Okay, Brad, next question.
We'd be better off if we could just lock up some of the people expressing radical political views and keep them away from society. I disagree strongly, and I put this at a 5 because I am one of those people.
I also disagree and put this at a 5 because Brad is one of those people.
Yep, same.
All right, 47.
To go into a bit more depth on that question, no, locking people up for their political views is not okay.
And because who's to say what is radical?
Exactly. 47. Unrestrained capitalism cannot last, as wealth and power will concentrate to a small elite. It absolutely can last, and it probably will concentrate to a small elite, but that doesn't mean that there is nothing left for anybody else. And I think that's the big thing that people forget.
Yeah.
Like, everybody talks about, I want my piece of the pie. Well, if you think that, like, again, let's say that you think that your piece of the pie should be X amount of the pie. With other economic systems, your pie stays the same size, and you get that X%. In capitalism, your percentage slice of the pie might be a bit smaller, but you have a much larger fucking pie.
Yeah.
That's ever expanding and increasing. So while your slice might be a bit smaller in its width than under another system, it's getting the entire pie is getting larger and larger, making your piece bigger and bigger. Just because you don't have a large of a as much of a degree of the pie doesn't mean you have less.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing that people miss. So I'm going to disagree strongly. I'm going to put that at a 5.
I put disagree strongly. I have it at a 5.
Same.
It is a problem when young people display a lack of respect for authority.
I'm agreeing. Put that at a 1.
I disagree and put it at a 1.
Neutral on 1.
Wow, all over there. I mean, I think learning to respect authority is an important part of growing up and maturing. Now, that also means understanding when to defy authority as well. But understanding and respecting that authority is an aspect of that. And whenever you see young people that are going out and like trying to get in fights with cops because fuck authority, yeah, that's a problem. But
Yeah.
that's my opinion. I agree, and a 1.
Anyway, when corporate interests become too powerful, the state should take action to ensure the public is served.
Are we talking like monopoly level powerful?
I think that's the spirit of the statement.
I'm gonna say agree then. I'm gonna put it at a 3.
Yep, same. Because if we are talking about monopolies, I think that's when the government should step in.
Yeah. Trust busting. My good friend Teddy. The best Republican.
Yep.
Other than Lincoln.
Yep.
The first Republican is what Lincoln was.
A person.
What are your opinions on this, Brad? I heard that sigh. It's a difficult question for you.
I know. That's that S word, doesn't it?
And here's the thing. We kind of talked about this the other day, but in order for a market to be truly free, there has to be competition.
Yeah.
And monopolies prevent that. And so if that's the spirit of the question, then I have to agree.
I agree. I've got this at a 3.
Yeah.
My only thing is, like, in a perfect world, the state would be the public interest. So that,
yeah.
But I mean, like, in that case, the public would protect the public interest by not helping the corporate interest. If
Number
that makes
50.
sense. Yeah.
Number 50. A person's morality is of the most personal nature. Therefore, government should have no involvement in moral questions or promote moral behaviors. I understand what this question's trying to say. The problem is that there are definitely some areas where this fails. So, for example, I think what this is trying to get at is it, should the government have, say, an abortion because abortion is a moral question? I think the answer is no. However, what about murder? Murder is a moral question. I think the government should say, you shouldn't murder people. And I think they should have a say. So I'm kind of torn on how I'm supposed to answer this question. What about you guys?
I mean, there's goods and bads to it, so I think I'm probably just gonna stay neutral in this question.
I think that might be correct. And I think I'm gonna keep it at 3 too.
Yeah.
Because I feel very I'm very much. I think it comes down to rights issues. I believe the government should be protecting rights, and not trying to apply morals. But part of morals are questions of things like life and liberty. And so it's one of those things I agree there should be some regulation of morals, but to a very, 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 very limited amount. Brad?
See, the G word's in there.
Yeah, it is. There's a G in there.
Oh my god.
I put agree strongly, and I've got it at a 5.
Okay, that's fine. 51. The state should not set a minimum wage. Agree strongly. Set it at a 5.
Yep.
It's been shown many times that minimum wage are actually bad for workers.
Yep.
51. A nation's retirement safety net cannot be trusted to the fluctuations of the stock market.
Agree. I mean, that's just a true statement.
Yeah, I agree. I've got it at a 2.
I don't think the nation should have a retirement safety net.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this at a 3. You know why? Because fuck FDR.
All my homies hate FDR.
Yeah, they better fucking hate FDR. Guy's
And
a
our
fucking piece of shit.
Final question. Offensive or blasphemous art should be suppressed. Agree strongly. The novel that Corey sent me should not exist.
What novel?
I don't even know. I didn't even look at it. I'm just assuming it's porn.
I think he's talking about the hentai that I put up in the chat.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Strongly disagree, but this is like a 1 for me.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna say a 3. And you know why? Because people are trying to do that now with viewpoints that they don't like, viewpoints that would technically be considered art because of how they're presented.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna pick that at a 3.
I disagree strongly. I have it at 5.
Yeah. Corey?
Disagree strongly. Have it at a 2.
Okay. Number 54, optional. Please share some info about yourself. I am 18 to 29. I'm not going to answer the gender question. I hate those. Select your country. So, wait. Okay. Here's a problem I have. It says, select your gender. Male and female.
Just don't answer it.
No. Do you see the problem with that?
Yeah.
You do?
It's not sex, it's gender.
As I say, it should say select your sex. Because as have been pounded into people for the last decade from the transgender community, sex and gender are not the same. Sex is male and female, and gender is man and woman. So that needs fixed, site. What?
Nothing. I just looked at my results.
I'm from the United States. I'm from PA. My race. I'm Asian, guys. Select a political party. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready for my results. Is everybody else ready for their results?
Yep.
I got them.
Yep.
What are you, Brad?
No, you two go first.
All
Well,
right,
I want to hear yours first.
I'll go first. All right. I'm a right social libertarian. My
What's your score?
right is 6.34, and my libertarian score is 7.63.
Okay, Brad?
Jordan?
No, Brad, I want to hear yours.
I want to hear yours.
Okay, I am a right social libertarian. I am a 4.8, 6.72.
Those are rookie numbers, guys.
What are yours?
I am a right social libertarian. I am 7.47 right, and I am 9.27 libertarian.
Everybody take a screenshot.
Can I?
How do I do
can
that?
copy the image. I'll just post it up in Discord.
As I say, you can also just click the image to save.
Yeah. Put it up in the podcast chat.
As I say, also if you go to the page, to that page, if you hold your Windows Shift and S key, you'll get a little thing pop up, and you can just kind of draw a box over what you want to screen cap.
That's firmly ANCAP territory.
Oh yeah. So I'm the most centrist of us all.
Yeah. Where are you guys on the foreign policy and culture?
I got a negative 5.75 towards non-interventionalists.
I got a negative 6.09.
Negative 8.52.
And then
culture.
Culture,
I got a negative 4.21 towards cultural liberal.
negative 4.96.
Negative 5.64.
I am more non-interventionalist than the average user, and I am more cultural liberal than the average user. And I am much more right and libertarian than the average user.
You think you are?
Oh yeah, you are too.
I think we all are.
I'm about 10 standard deviations.
Yeah, really.
On both the libertarian and the right side.
Well, that was definitely an event. So, we're all on the libertarian perspective of things. I'm a bit more centrist than these two.
Yeah, I'm like build your own compound in the middle of nowhere libertarian.
No, dude, you're just a fucking ANCAP.
Yep.
That is like, that's not even a question. Let's be real.
Yeah, no. I've been in ANCAP since 2015. Before that, I was like, I'm a Republican, and then like
I'm an ANCAP.
I know, I was literally, I always had ANCAP beliefs, but I was like, that's what a conservative is, right? And then before the 2016 presidential election was the first election that I could actually vote in. I went to I Side with and answered all their questions. And there was, I think it was an independent. I can't even remember the guy's name, but I scored. I was like 98 or 97% aligned with what he was. He had ballot access in Alaska only.
Yeah, that's about true.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wait. I guess I'm not conservative. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, you are on the more conservative side of the line.
Yeah, but there's a bit. I mean, I'm further away. I'm further away from conservative than I am the average user of
Technically,
of that quiz.
No,
technically,
no.
the conservatives that we have now aren't really conservatives.
No, they're corporate socialists.
Yeah.
They're liberals that drive the speed limit.
Yep.
You want to crash faster, or do you want to have a chance at surviving?
As an anarchist, crash faster. Bring it on, baby. You guys do your thing. I'll do mine. Anyway.
Well, that was fun. That was an event.
That was very fun.
Yeah. As I say, I think I could normally take that quiz in about 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
we're at like 3:10.
Yeah, I don't I don't have to yeah, when I take it by myself, I don't have to explain every choice I make.
Yeah, as to say, there's no debate, there's no talking. Yeah.
Although we weren't really debating, just really laying out our viewpoints.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a little debate in there about certain things.
You guys were laying out.
Corey, you barely talked.
Yeah.
As I say, politics is something that like you casually observe.
Oh,
whereas,
no, I do not get into politics whatsoever. I casually observe.
We dragged Corey through this podcast.
As I say,
let's be honest.
Corey, you get involved in the social justice side of politics.
Yeah.
With the SJW bullshit. Whereas I engage in politics on a much, much broader level. And then you have Brad, who just wants to form a compound and say, fuck the system.
See, I follow politics only to... I have a love-hate relationship with politics. I follow politics incredibly closely, only to remind myself at all times why I'm building the compound.
Sounds about right.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not wrong. But, I mean, it's not what I would do. I'm a little surprised with my results. I didn't think it would peg me as libertarian and as far right. I was the most moderate of us.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because I guess I spent a bit of time in the Democrat Party. I definitely feel like the Democrat Party left me. Holy shit, did it leave? It fucking skyrocketed off towards the left over the last 5 years, which was something I started to see happening about 6 years ago, I want to say. But yeah, I mean, I kind of have been bouncing around. I mean, I voted Gary Johnson in 2016 after voting for Obama in 2012. In 2020, I voted for Trump because holy shit, Biden is terrible. And Trump's actually done some good things if you're willing to actually, look at the truth instead of what people try to force feed you. Looking up things like primary sources. Controversial, I understand, but primary sources are generally a whole lot better than we had an anonymous source tell us a few hours ago this statement, therefore it's true. Like, no, that's not how this works. Anyway, any final words, statements, anything anybody wants to talk about here at the end?
I'm glad
Bitcoin, gold, guns.
I'm glad that you guys carried me through this podcast. It was nice to, active like at one point I actually started reading a book while you guys were talking. Because I knew that I had no opinion on the subject, so I was like, while they're talking, I'm gonna continue reading this book.
Me and Jordan are just like, and here's another thing. Corey's just sitting there like, yes.
I
Let's be
see
honest.
what you
Let's be
mean.
honest. Of the two of us, when it comes to politics, Corey's the Chad for just literally not caring.
Yeah.
Only reason I
Mhm.
care is because masochistic tendencies. Anyway.
I mean, I just kind of pay attention to what's going on in the world around me. That's why I was able to predict the rise and fall of the stock market over this last year, make some money off of that, and be able to prepare and buy extra supplies for the incoming coronavirus shutdowns all the way back in like early March.
Yeah.
And why everybody thought I was crazy whenever I started talking about getting masks early for use before they became mandatory, and people thought I was crazy and that would never happen. And I told people to buy supplies because there were going to be lockdowns, and people told me I was crazy and that would never happen. I still remember I was talking to a specific manager at work, and I asked about voluntary mask usage, and they told me that would never be allowed at Walmart because the company would see that as an affront to customer service, and under absolutely no circumstances would that ever be allowed. Less than a month later, it was mandatory, and it's been mandatory since then.
Yeah.
They couldn't look me in the eye for almost a month after that.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, and rightfully so, I think. Just because, I was right again. I was also right about the country opening up, starting to reopen up in June and July, and then going back into shutdown because cases would spike, and then continuing that cycle a couple times. Because no duh, that's going to happen unless you completely eliminate the virus, which was not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I even knew that was gonna happen too.
yeah, it was just like, and then all of these people just surprise Pikachu face whenever, oh, look, 2 weeks after things start opening up, and oh, yeah, by the way, there's these massive riots all across the country. Look, there's this big spike. We have to close down again. It's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Obviously, this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But people just think that they know everything.
And
Nobody, especially somebody that's politically, the opposite side of them. There's no way they could know a single thing.
and then the left go and blame Trump for all these problems,
Yeah.
and they all.
See, I'm still of the opinion that we should never have shut down in the first place.
Oh yeah, no, like the virus is going to spread.
Yeah, it was going to spread. So here's the thing, right? If you look at the CDC numbers, to be able to understand the impact of the virus, you have to look at total deaths over the year. And right now we're sitting at 300,000 excess deaths on the year and about 250,000 coronavirus deaths on the year. People are just like, "Oh man, that's really bad. I wonder where all those extra deaths came from." The thing is, the 250 coronavirus deaths are not what's making up that 300,000. So every year you see an increase of between 50 and 70,000 deaths because of the, adjusted population. Believe it or not, those extra deaths are not coming from coronavirus. Do you know what age demographic that they're coming from? Any guesses?
The boomers.
No. Right now, the group of people that has seen the most increase in death percentage compared to other years is people aged 25 to 44. There has been an almost 50% increase per week, and it's not from coronavirus.
Suicide.
It's suicides. It's not getting medical treatment. It's not going to the hospital whenever they think something's wrong. Believe it or not, car accidents are a big part of it because when the roads are a lot clearer, people drive a lot less safely, and they're not as defensive whenever there's other people, and they also tend to speed. There's a lot of reasons why the 25 through 44 are dying at about 30 to 50% higher per week than they have in previous years. And whenever you look at the demographic that was hit the hardest by coronavirus, which is those that are 70 plus, their excess total deaths are not that much higher than they've been in previous years. They're almost within the margin of error.
Hmm.
Because this disease is killing people that would have most likely died within this year anyway. That's really who this targets. Because unless you're in the 70 plus category, your case fatality rate is something like 0.0003%, which is minuscule. Minuscule. And so yeah, it's been kind of insane to look at some of the numbers that are coming out. So I'm maintaining now more than ever that if we wouldn't have shut down, I think our death rate, our total deaths would actually be lower, because we would not have seen the massive spike during the summer from suicides that we saw, and we wouldn't have seen the massive increase in the young Americans dying off from different reasons.
I think you're right.
We definitely would have lost more people from the virus itself, because we weren't being as protective of them. But I think we would have saved more lives and more younger lives if we didn't shut down. And of course, it's not going to be something we're ever going to know for sure, because ifs and buts. But that was my position back in March, when shit started going down, and I'm going to maintain that position. I still think it would have been smarter to not shut down and just let it happen.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm on that same position as well. It's just legitimately, like scientists, the left's always about the science, the science that they have continually to ignore, constantly said that if you continue to do this lockdown, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road.
Yep.
And Biden's pro lockdown, and we're probably gonna have to go through another lockdown. And
I think it's going to be a much worse lockdown than what we saw this last time.
yeah, and
I wouldn't be surprised.
and with all the other countries that we thought that had it under control after all these lockdowns are going through another lockdown.
Yep.
You're legitimately the best scenario would have been just let the virus spread, because the vaccine is at least a year down the road, not now currently, but like back then it was a year down the road. And if you wanted this problem, you were going to have to let the problem solve. You're going to have to let our immune system solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things, right, is so for people that don't know, we're actually originally planning on having another guest on today. However, they couldn't make it because they're sick, and based upon the symptoms, it looks like it could very easily be coronavirus. I believe they took a test today. I don't know what the results are or are going to be. If I had to guess, I'd probably guess it's coronavirus. He's fine. He'll be fine. His fiance will most likely be fine, even though I believe they both have some health issues. Um, because of the age category that they fall into, they are not very much at risk, even with health issues. I have a coworker that is currently out of work because they have a confirmed case at the moment. Technically, meaning that I've probably been exposed to this person. However, Walmart doesn't think so, because they don't classify me as somebody having close contact, which is 6 feet for 10 minutes or more, even though I probably have. I haven't developed any symptoms. We'll see over the next week or two. But the thing is even if I get it, I'm not concerned at all.
My boss, my actual boss, has a confirmed case, and the only thing that she's having is like aches, and she and the other two people in my department aren't allowed to do technically their job, because they had close contact with them, but they're both they both seem fine. Like they both seem like they don't have it.
Yeah, it's we'll all end up being fine eventually.
Yeah.
And at least the three of us. As I say, the most at risk here I think might be Corey.
Yeah, but that's honestly just because of the drug that fucked up my lung system. But I think I'll be fine.
As I say, I think you should be able to get through it okay. Brad, any final thoughts?
No, but that does lead us into the conspiracy theory of the day, and that is Operation Lockstep. Listeners, go look it up. Anyway, that's me. I'm out. Bye.
Well, Corey, do you wanna say any final words?
I'm glad that in the last like 5 minutes I've spoken more than the last 3 hours.
3+ hours probably. You need to speak more, man. Get in there. Really get in there.
Just
We're
hop in
taking
there.
a political test. I don't care about politics.
Except when you do.
Just
Yeah.
shitpost.
Or
like
shit,
like
Brad.
legitimately what Brad said. He's just the Chad of just not caring.
Yeah. I mean, not entirely wrong.
Doesn't mean you can't have fun with it.
Nah.
Yeah, make fun of things. I do that a lot. I make fun of you.
I
and
care
Brad,
too much. I care
and
too
Zach,
much.
and my wife.
I care too much about politics, but I still make fun of it.
Yeah. I mean, I rib people at work all the time. We have good fun. They rib back on occasions. That's even better.
I care so little about it that I don't even think of making jokes about it.
Shame. Well, anyway, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for joining us at the BCJ Bonfire Talk. I hope you've had a wonderful time. Maybe, if you'd like, go take a political test of your own and put your results down in the comments. Let us know. Be sure to comment and subscribe. And like always, I hope you have a wonderful night.
And buy silver and gold.